Chapter 376. After the Golden TV series gala, news and discussions about the awards ceremony were overwhelming. Feng Zhao's name also once again appeared in the headlines of entertainment news on various continents. He was not the winner of the Best Actor award, but he was the biggest winner of this banquet. If one were to look at the overall statistics, one would realize that every time Feng Zhao became a topic of discussion, apart from the film and television circles, his name would also appear in the gaming circles, music circles, and even the military and medical industries, which had always been distinctly separated from the entertainment industry, would have a small amount of news about him. Apart from that, after the Golden TV series gala, a number of world-renowned modeling agencies also began to make their moves. During the red carpet show, the hands of the photographers on both sides of the red carpet were trembling. God knows how many photos they had taken, but when they went back to take a look, none of them were satisfied. They always felt that the angle was a little off, so they could only choose the best one to post first. But deep down, they were still not satisfied. Looking at the video of the red carpet show, the cameraman sighed. What a waste of talent. She was obviously model material. Why didn't the agency package him in this direction? Photographers had their own sense of beauty. In the eyes of many people, beautiful and handsome faces were not attractive to them. Of course, in addition to their faces, there was also their temperament, as well as the unique beauty they brought to the scene in front of the camera. A video of Feng Zhao and Anna on the red carpet went viral online. Entertainment reporters didn't necessarily understand the criteria for a high-class face, but they knew that those favored by the photographers were definitely of the high-class category. Feng Zhao's face, which would have been considered ordinary in the film and television industry filled with handsome men and beautiful women, had become what entertainment reporters called a high-class face overnight. Many cameramen attending the Golden TV series gala had taken notice of Feng Zhao. Some had even contacted Silverwing, hoping to collaborate with Feng Zhao. As for Silverwing, Feng Zhao? We can't do anything about it. He's just a composer signed by our company, not an actor or model. But our company still has many outstanding actors and models. If you can't get a shot of Feng Zhao, you can try them. They have all gone through training with Feng Zhao. After receiving Silverwing's reply, the majority of the photographers did not follow up. They had seen their fair share of celebrities and did not care. I just want to shoot Feng Zhao. But there were still a number of photographers who approached Silverwing to discuss collaborations. During a press conference at Silverwing Media, when a reporter asked about Feng Zhao's future direction of development, the spokesperson smiled but didn't say anything. The spokesperson thought to himself, "Why are you asking me something that the entire company doesn't know?" Facing Feng Zhao, Silverwing Media was getting weaker and weaker. Right now, his priority was to win them over. He couldn't care about anything else. Apart from the topics raised by the photographers, the fact that Anna had addressed Feng Zhao as little junior brother during the interview was also a hot topic. Before the red carpet show, Anna had this thought, "I want to make junior brother famous." But in reality, she was basking in Feng Zhao's limelight. It was true that she was jealous, but it was not to the extent of hatred. After all, he was her junior brother, a junior brother with terrifying potential. Mo Lang thought highly of him. She might have to ask this junior brother for help in the future. Now that she had to help, it would be easier for her to ask for help in the future. After Anna leaked the news, Professor Carter of Huangzhou Institute of Art announced that Feng Zhao would be studying under him. Mo Lang also voiced his support. When the people in the industry saw this, they understood. This was Mo Lang accepting him as a disciple, so he had already pulled him under his wing. No wonder Feng Zhao had been the one to receive the Best Original Score award at the Golden TV series gala instead of someone else. Feng Zhao's artistic path would be much smoother than others if he could obtain the support of a treasured master artist, Mo Lang. But now, Mo Lang was very worried. When he scrolled through the entertainment section because of Feng Zhao, he saw people advising Feng Zhao to act, others advising him to become a model, and there was also a lot of exaggerated news. If the hype continued, Mo Lang was worried that Feng Zhao would become arrogant. After some thought, Mo Lang contacted Professor Carter. As soon as Feng Zhao returns, take him out of the project and isolate him. You must immediately isolate him from these external temptations. Carter nodded. Understood. What about Feng Zhao's theoretical teaching? You don't have to worry about that. Carter. He is my disciple. After the Golden TV series Gala came the Golden Film Gala. For visitors to Coral Island, if the Golden TV series Gala was a carnival on land, then the Golden Film Gala was a carnival on the sea. The Golden Film Gala was held in a palatial building by the sea. There were also fireworks and lights. The seaside scenery and dreamy lights formed a completely different backdrop from the Golden TV series Gala. Celebrities who hadn't been able to make a name for themselves at the Golden TV series Gala turned their attention to the Golden Film Gala. But the past 2 years had belonged to Founding Era. This super-long project had attracted more than 70% of the world's famous actors and stars. As a result, this year's Golden Film Gala seemed a lot weaker. Of course, celebrities wouldn't complain about having too many opportunities to appear in public. There would be red carpet walks, pictures taken, and news stories that needed to be hyped up. Entertainment reporters from all continents started to ponder whether they could get more photos of Fang Zhao. Who knew? They might be able to dig up some big news about this popular high-class face. The photographers participating in the Golden Film Gala were also on standby. Some people even found a spot that they thought was convenient, thinking that this time, they had to get the most perfect photo. Although it was a pity that Fang Zhao wasn't on the red carpet list for the Golden Film Gala, there were other ways to take photos. The Golden Film Gala had special shooting spots inside the venue. Then, the various personnel who were itching to give it a try realized that they couldn't find Fang Zhao again. Because he didn't have any film credits and had no intention of changing careers to acting, Fang Zhao gave his entry to other colleagues from the same company. As for himself, he had other plans. On the night of the Golden Film Gala, on another small island in the Coral Archipelago, another local celebration was being held. Fang Zhao didn't attend the Golden Film Gala. Instead, he followed Tianmin to the lighthouse. Every year, today is a special day of remembrance for the Coral Archipelago. But this year, the Golden Film Gala and the Lighthouse Festival coincide. You see, there are local celebrations near the lighthouse. Although Tianmin also wanted to show his face at the Golden Film Gala, interact with the film industry, and expand his network, as a local, he had a deeper attachment to the Lighthouse Festival. So, having to choose between the two, he chose to come to the lighthouse. As for Fang Zhao, Tianmin had only mentioned it to test the waters. He hadn't expected that Fang Zhao would really come. There were too many locals gathered near the lighthouse, so Fang Zhao didn't squeeze his way through. Instead, he watched from a few of the best viewing spots that Tianmin had recommended. Unlike the extravagance of the Golden Film Gala, this place was self-contained. The lighthouse carried with it an ancient charm that had settled down over time, illuminating the high ground. Waves crashed against the reefs, making intermittent noises. The moist sea breeze carried the scent of alcohol, and the surroundings were filled with celebratory crowds. The drums, which were characteristic of the local area, thumped loudly, as vibrant as the life of the area. Dancers raised their heads, their eyes reflecting a seemingly rotating starry sky. The waves, the reefs, the lighthouse, and the people fused perfectly in this moment, giving off an intoxicating atmosphere. Tianmin smiled at the lighthouse and told Fang Zhao, after the broadcast of Founding Era, many foreigners said that Huangzhou people have no faith. I don't agree. I don't know about other parts of Huangzhou, but here in Coral, it is faith. Although the lighthouse had been destroyed during the period of destruction and rebuilt in the new era, for the people of Coral, the spirit of the lighthouse had always been there. The towering lighthouse was an inextinguishable hope. Fang Zhao tapped his fingers on his knees. After a while, he fished out a notebook from his backpack and jotted down his inspirations. Tianmin was filming this year's Lighthouse Festival with a video camera. He glanced at a few girls dancing nearby and was about to tell Fang Zhao, "Hey, that chick isn't bad," when he turned his head and saw Fang Zhao writing in a notebook. Tianmin shrank back when he saw this and began to reflect. As an artist, his ideological awareness was still not high enough. Sure enough, success wasn't a fluke. Look at Fang Zhao. Whether he was writing a thesis or composing, his attitude was worth learning. With Fang Zhao as a comparison, Tianmin also curbed his other thoughts. I'm a director with a dream, an artist with ambition. Fang Zhao used his pen to record his insights, so I'll use my camera to express my thoughts and feelings. One day, I'll be rewarded. I have to believe that I can definitely become a world-class director. At midnight, the light from the lighthouse shone far out on the sea. A ship sounded its whistle. The resounding voice seemed to pass through time and pay homage to the lighthouse. For the people of Corral, this kind of response was sacred. Only when the whistle sounded was this commemorative event complete. The people participating in the commemorative event left one after another. Fang Zhao finished writing the last note and closed his notebook. This trip to the Corral archipelago had been fruitful. Besides his thesis, he had also gained a lot of inspiration. After composing 2 of the songs, Fang Zhao planned to include them in his graduation concert. When he returned to the hotel, the people who had participated in the Golden Film Gala were also returning. Some artists saw Fang Zhao and thought to themselves, "Where the hell did this kid come from? I didn't see him tonight." Fang Zhao blocked the curious gazes outside his hotel room and finished the song he hadn't finished. After revising it, he turned on the surveillance cameras and checked the situation in the Huang Art dormitory. Curly Hair was playing games again, wagging his tail happily. Fang Zhao hadn't had much free time in the few days he had been in Corral. But while Fang Zhao was composing and writing his thesis, Curly Hair was playing games. While Fang Zhao was attending various events, Curly Hair was sleeping. While Fang Zhao was controlling his appetite for the Golden Series Gala, Curly Hair was eating and drinking. Chapter 377. After attending the Corral Film Festival, Fang Zhao returned to Huangzhou Institute of Art at Professor Carter's urging. Huang Art didn't seem to have changed much in the 10 days he had been away. It was just that some students had started discussing Fang Zhao in private. Fang Zhao had heard it many times on the day he returned, and those students thought they had covered it up well. However, Huang Art was Huang Art after all. Even if they worshipped their idols, they were much more reserved. On the day Fang Zhao returned, Will had taken Curly Hair for a stroll in a garden on campus to nurture his inspiration. Who knew that Curly Hair, who had been happily playing in the bushes, would suddenly run toward the dormitory. Will wasn't paying attention, and the leash slipped from his hand. Curly Hair dragged the leash and ran like the wind toward the advanced student dormitory. He pounced at Fang Zhao, wagging his tail and whining like a spoiled child. Fang Zhao hadn't seen Curly Hair's long-time no-see and missed behavior from the dormitory surveillance footage. This little thing had been having a great time playing games last night. Luckily, he wasn't connected to the internet. If he had, his addiction would probably have been even greater. Will, who had rushed over, heaved a sigh of relief when he saw Fang Zhao. He had been scared out of his wits, afraid that Curly Hair would get lost. It was said that many dogs disappeared the moment the leash was let go. The dog-rearing manual also said that one had to hold the leash tightly when outside. Curly Hair hadn't been in such a situation for the past few days. He had been especially well-behaved. So well-behaved that Will had let down his guard and let go of the leash. Will heaved a sigh of relief when he saw Fang Zhao, but he didn't feel good. "I haven't even nurtured any inspiration, and it's over?" Fang Zhao saw Will's undisguised disappointment and greeted him before entering the dormitory. Fang Zhao let Nanfeng, Zuiyu, and Yin Biao return first. He put away the water tank containing the rabbit and fed it new feed before giving Curly Hair a simple checkup. Because of Curly Hair's uniqueness, Fang Zhao had prepared some simple testing tools. In the end, Curly Hair didn't seem much different from before. Even his weight hadn't changed. Fang Zhao crouched down and patted Curly Hair's head. "I might be heading out in 2 days to Mazhou to join Professor Carter and the others on a project. You can continue hanging out with Will for another half a month." Curly Hair's ears drooped as he rolled around Fang Zhao's feet and whined unhappily. His little paws even tugged at Fang Zhao's trousers. Fang Zhao quietly watched Curly Hair rolling on the ground and said, "I'll buy you a new game." Curly Hair flipped over and glanced over at the game console. His tail started wagging again. As expected of a gamer dog, Fang Zhao smiled and shook his head. He turned on the game console and looked at the statistics of the players. Curly Hair had played through all the standalone games he had bought previously and had achieved extremely high scores. Now, he was always grinding for high scores when he played games. Curly Hair had been so happy yesterday that he had probably broken his previous records. If this data was uploaded to the internet, it would definitely cause a sensation. Erase all the data and delete the game completely. Fang Zhao also bought a new little game from Fiery Bird. It was a physics-themed puzzle game. The higher the level, the more difficult it would be, and the more complex the structure would be. After making the purchase, Fang Zhao switched to single-player mode, just like before. Fang Zhao chose this game not only because of its novel design, unique color scheme, and novel effects. It also involved knowledge that was commonly used in everyday life, such as structural mechanics. The game's soundtrack was also pretty good. It blended in with the game and was natural and harmonious. The atmosphere was rather good. Curly Hair barked a few times excitedly at the sight of a new game. If Fang Zhao hadn't stopped him, he would have immediately dove into the gaming helmet to have some fun. After tidying up his dormitory, Fang Zhao was summoned by Imo Lang. Imo Lang wanted to give him a lecture on professional knowledge and professionalism. In the future, if it wasn't convenient to meet Fang Zhao in person, Imo Lang would teach Fang Zhao directly over the internet. Imo Lang told Fang Zhao that he would be responsible for all theoretical knowledge in the future. After returning from Mo Lang's place, Fang Zhao was summoned by Carter to complete the paperwork. Carter passed Fang Zhao a few application forms for him to fill out. I will be heading over to Majo for the Spartacus Cup opening ceremony's music event soon. You will come with me and a few of your seniors. You will meet them there. Just as Imo Lang had instructed, Carter had already arranged Fang Zhao's itinerary for the next few days the day he returned to school. He had even arranged it 2 days earlier than originally planned to prevent Fang Zhao from having any contact with the entertainment industry. Fang Zhao had originally thought that he would have to stay on campus for 2 or 3 days before leaving. He hadn't expected Professor Carter to make such tight arrangements. This was the benefit of being a disciple of a master. If it was a solo effort, it would be very difficult to win an event like the Spartacus Cup in Majo, especially for young musicians in their 20s. There was simply no way they could come into contact with such events. After completing the paperwork, Fang Zhao returned to his dormitory and saw Will standing at the door. I have something to discuss with you, Will said. Sure, let's talk inside. After entering, Will's gaze lingered on Curly Hair for a good while before he asked Fang Zhao, when are you going out again? During the time Fang Zhao had been attending the film festival, Will had treated Curly Hair like a rare and precious beast, afraid that he would go astray. However, inspiration just wouldn't come. Many times, Will had felt that he was very close and that he had chosen the right direction. However, he still couldn't grasp that thread of inspiration. He felt that there was definitely a problem somewhere. After some analysis, Will felt that he hadn't spent enough time with Curly Hair. Humans and dogs weren't close enough, so his inspiration hadn't been nurtured. If he was given more time, perhaps he would have a breakthrough. Thus, Will came looking for Fang Zhao to discuss whether he could continue raising Curly Hair for a period of time. Fang Zhao smiled. What a coincidence. I was just about to look for you. Professor Carter just asked me to come over. I have a project in Mousezu that will take about half a month. Will's eyes lit up. Really? That's great. Then he promised Fang Zhao, don't worry. I will definitely take good care of him. I feel that I am already very close to my goal. Fang Zhao believed what Will had said. Now, Will placed Curly Hair above all else. What he said about being close to his goal was definitely true. After seeing Will's portrait of himself, Fang Zhao was looking forward to seeing how Will would paint Curly Hair. Just like before, Curly Hair would follow Will during the day and return to his dormitory at night. This little fella's mind was on games, so he wouldn't go out at night. After Will left, Fang Zhao contacted great-grandfather and great-grandmother Fang in Yinbei City. After the film festival had ended, Fang Zhao hadn't gone to Yinzhou to visit the two elders because Carter had been pressing him, but he still kept in touch. This time, great-grandfather Fang was still the same as before, but great-grandmother Fang seemed to have something else to say. When she spoke to Fang Zhao, she hesitated for quite a while before telling him about how great-grandfather Fang had nearly choked to death on his own saliva. At her age, she couldn't take fright. The old man was fine this time, but what about next time? The old man hadn't been paying attention and choked on his own saliva. There were so many people in the retirement facility. Who at this age would be as fussy as him? The older he got, the less mature he was. He was as noisy as a child. Great-grandmother Fang sighed. He doesn't listen to what others say. When I say something, He gets stubborn and thinks I'm making a mountain out of a molehill. Little Zhao, he will definitely listen to what you say. Tell him to be more stable. At his age, he should cultivate his character. He doesn't want to regress as he gets older. Fang Zhao hadn't expected such a thing to happen. Great-grandmother Fang's worries were reasonable. All right, I'll think of something. After ending the call, Fang Zhao thought about it carefully and felt that if he wanted great-grandfather Fang to become more mature and calm, just talking wouldn't do him any good. It would be best if he could find something else for the old man to do and develop a new hobby. Fang Zhao opened his address book and contacted people in Muzhou Yinbei Retirement Facility. Great-grandfather Fang pulled a long face when he found out that great-grandmother Fang had told Fang Zhao about him choking on his own saliva. You told little Zhao about such a small matter. It was a pure accident. He's busy, so don't give him trouble. Great-grandfather Fang chided. Great-grandmother Fang gave him a sidelong glance. You should control your restless heart. If you have excess energy, go farm. Get a few more plots of land to farm. That will save you the trouble. How am I restless? How am I looking for trouble? I'm just showing off our family's little Zhao. Also, I can't work in the fields every day. I'm just a bag of old bones. If I really work in the fields, I'll just fall to the ground. There was something else that the old master didn't say. How could farming be more interesting than showing off his great-grandson? The two elders bickered for a bit. Great-grandfather Fang ignored them and sulked. He kept a straight face, but deep down, he was anxious. I wonder what little Zhao will say when he calls again. Will he lose his temper? Great-grandfather Fang lost his appetite and couldn't sleep well. The next day, he was listless. Fang Zhao finally called and told the two elders that he had gotten someone to send a package and that he would receive it today. It was a small box of walnuts. After the period of destruction, many walnut species had gone extinct. Now, most of them were new varieties developed by the Academy of Agricultural Sciences. The number of walnuts sent over from Muzhou wasn't much. It wasn't that they couldn't bear to part with them, but the type of walnuts Fang Zhao had mentioned were too rare. These were the leftover samples from the Academy of Agricultural Sciences. After processing, they were immediately sent to Yenzhou. Very quickly, great-grandfather Fang received the small box that had been sent from Muzhou. Inside were manuals and copies of videos. Are these the walnuts little Zhao mentioned? Great-grandfather Fang emptied out an even more exquisite chest and transferred the walnuts inside into his own treasure chest as if they were treasures. Great-grandmother Fang put on her glasses and picked up the manual. Fitness walnuts? Great-grandfather Fang followed the manual and grabbed 2 walnuts to feel them. You don't say. Once I get my hands on them, I feel calm and at ease. Great-grandmother Fang. What a load of bullshit. Great-grandfather Fang had an intoxicated look on his face as he continued lamenting, Hey, these things are good. Chapter 378. Great-grandfather Fang went out for a spin with the 2 walnuts in his hands. His gait was as leisurely as ever, but he couldn't suppress his glee. He was even humming a tune. Someone asked Great-grandfather Fang, Why are you playing with walnuts? Great-grandfather Fang's face turned solemn. Was he playing with walnuts? Nope. It was sentiment, artistic conception, artistic style. If you don't believe me, take a look. It even has the charm of the old era. That day, many seniors in the retirement facility privately inquired about where such walnuts were sold. They couldn't stand great-grandfather Fang's smugness. They didn't show it in front of him, but they were envious of him twirling walnuts. When they got back, they did some research. That's right, the old era did have such a way of playing, and it seemed pretty impressive. There were also people who went to ask great-grandfather Fang, but the first thing great-grandfather Fang said was, My family's little Zhao gave it to me. Blah, blah, blah. A long string of words kept popping out. My family's little Zhao. It made people's teeth itch. As for those who wanted to borrow or buy walnuts from great-grandfather Fang, great-grandfather Fang rejected all of them. No room for discussion. I can't even bear to use them given to me by my great-grandson. How can I share them with you? Delusional. If you have the ability, get your great-grandson to buy them. Great-grandfather Fang wasn't willing to lend out the walnuts. He did have a small chest, but it was just a small chest. He knew that if these things were easy to obtain, Feng Zhao would surely have given him a large chest, but the reality was that these things were scarce. Great-grandfather Feng's favorite thing to do every day was to take the two most pleasing walnuts out for a leisurely stroll. His hands never stopped when he was chatting or playing chess. He would even purposely approach crowded places to show off the two walnuts in his hands. Pleased. This is my personality. I'm totally different from those old fogies outside who only know how to drink tea and play chess. Great-grandfather Feng even named the two precious walnuts Diding walnuts. Carrying the name of a mythical beast made it seem even more high-end, auspicious, and evil-repellent. When it came to mythological beasts, the one that left the deepest impression on great-grandfather Feng was Diding. Feng Zhao's nickname on the internet was Diding, so when mythological beasts were mentioned, the first one great-grandfather Feng thought of was Diding. The rarer something was, the greater its value. This was linked to the old era, and with great-grandfather Feng's ability to brag, this became a topic of conversation among the elders. Gradually, the story spread, and the more it spread, the more incredible it became. Some people said that the lines on the surface of the walnut were unusual, like those of mythical beasts and legends. Feng Zhao's mind was still focused on music. As a capable assistant, Nan Feng would raise both hands in approval of any decision Feng Zhao made. Zuiyu was still apprehensive when he received the news. Boss is going to Mazhou. Will he bring us along? Nan Feng rubbed his hands together and said confidently, he will definitely bring me along. I have to be in charge of boss's daily life and travel. Following a project is so tiring. It's mentally and physically exhausting. Boss's appetite is huge. I can't let boss go hungry. Zuiyu didn't lag behind. Besides protecting boss's safety, I can also help boss drive his flying transport. In places like Mazhou, you also need a driver. I can also help boss fend off entertainment reporters and teach paparazzi a lesson. Now, many entertainment reporters have their eyes on boss. As a bodyguard, I have a lot of responsibilities. Although the three of them spoke of their importance, deep down, they were feeling a little diffident. Feng Zhao really didn't need them. He had given them free rein when attending film festivals. This time, he was going to Mazhou with Professor Carter's team, so they didn't know if he would bring them along. The three of them waited nervously for an hour. Finally, Feng Zhao gave them an official notification and the itinerary. The three of them also received their assignments and felt at ease. Nan Feng, who had been excitedly packing his luggage, thought of something and asked the other two, if the three of us leave, what about boss's pet? Yin Biao, who had just ended the call with Feng Zhao, replied, Rabbit has an automatic feeder. Curly hair will be taken care of by the neighbor next door. And lent to the neighbor next door? Nan Feng wondered why the neighbor next door was so obsessed with curly hair, but he quickly tossed the dog aside. He had to attend to boss's matters first. Nan Feng and the other two headed to Immerse ahead of time, while Feng Zhao followed Carter's team. Immerse was one of the 4 special continents among the 12 continents of the new era. It was called Mazhou for short and was named after great General Immerse. Immerse was also the glorious surname of the Immerse aristocratic Immerse family. It could be said that those with the Immerse bloodline might not necessarily receive this surname, but those with this surname were definitely people recognized by the Immerse family. Therefore, people who came to Mazhou knew that you could offend people from A-grade esports clubs, but you should never offend people with the Immerse surname. But for Carter, he was more willing to interact with people with the Immerse surname. At least people from the Immerse family wouldn't cause trouble without reason. On the contrary, many people from B-grade and even C-grade esports clubs love to cause trouble. Therefore, before arriving in Mazhou, Professor Carter had emphasized to his team that if they encountered trouble, they shouldn't face it head-on. What advantage could a person who dabbled in literature have against those who dabbled in sports? If they could avoid it, they would avoid it. If they couldn't avoid it, they would look for the police. Although there was a strong competitive atmosphere, the public security of the capital, Shavana, was still all right. The law enforcement was also considered fair. Everyone knew that Mazhou was a competitive continent. Every corner was filled with competitive elements. Competitive sports and entertainment departments and clubhouses could be seen everywhere on the streets. Basketball stars, soccer stars, shooting stars, boxing stars, and other celebrities of competitive sports appeared on the screens hanging high above the ground. Immerse's capital, Shavana, was also the region with the strongest competitive atmosphere. Many large-scale competitions were held here. The Spartacus Cup sports meet was also held here. After arriving at the hotel they had booked and taking a short break, Carter gathered his team for a small meeting. The main purpose was to explain his upcoming arrangements and introduce Feng Zhao to his disciples. Carter's sharp gaze swept across the room. Come, everyone, get to know each other. This is Feng Zhao, your junior disciple. This is his first time working on a project. Take good care of him. Everyone who met his gaze responded with a smile. In their hearts, they were very envious of Feng Zhao. They all knew that although Feng Zhao was Carter's disciple on the surface, he was actually learning from great master Mo Lang. However, no matter who Feng Zhao was learning from, they still had to address Feng Zhao as junior disciple. Professor Carter had brought over a dozen disciples to work on the project. They were all rather old. Other than Feng Zhao, the youngest was almost 50 years old. Carter wasn't a person who liked to talk nonsense. After saying what needed to be said, he looked at the time and said, "Let's all feel it out and seek inspiration." Then he got up and left. The Spartacus Cup organizing committee still had matters to discuss with him. They wanted to discuss the music for the next Spartacus Cup opening ceremony. After Carter left, the atmosphere in the conference room became much more relaxed. Everyone gathered around Feng Zhao. They wanted to exchange a few more words with this special junior disciple and exchange contact details. In the future, everyone would be from the same sect. If there were difficulties, they could help each other. They couldn't cut off contact. A person with a medium build and grizzled hair walked over and said with a smile, "Junior disciple, in terms of seniority, you have to call me big senior disciple." This person was called Enan. He was Carter's first disciple and was developing very well. He had made a name for himself and had a place in the circles. Enan was already over 80 years old this year, but he wasn't considered old in the new era. The reason his hair was so white was because he had specially dyed it. His hair had grown past his shoulders and was styled. It was a little curly and fluttering, giving it a more artistic feel. Big senior disciple, Feng Zhao greeted obediently. "Hey, that's right." Enan clapped his hands, the smile on his face deepening. "Just because you call me big senior disciple, I will definitely bring you." Enan was just about to say, "Bring you to show off, bring you to soar," when he saw the conference room door open. Professor Carter rushed in with a document on the table. "I will definitely bring you to discuss academic issues and teach you how to seek creative inspiration during the Spartacus Cup. As a big senior disciple, you can ask me any questions you have. If you encounter a bottleneck in your creative work, if you run into any obstacles in your thesis, etc., you can look for me," Enan said with a straight face. Enan knew what kind of person his disciple was. Carter shot him a warning glance. Enan hurriedly assured Carter, "Teacher, don't worry. I will definitely bring up little junior disciple well." Carter snorted coldly and left in a hurry with the document. After Carter left, Enan put on a smile again. With a hint of impatience, he said to the others, "It's rare for us fellow disciples from different continents to gather together for a project. Today, I will treat everyone to a taste of Majo's flavor." Carter's disciples all knew that their big senior disciple, Enan, was a very talented person, but he had a bad habit. He was addicted to alcohol. At first, Carter had tried to dissuade him, but after seeing that Enan could produce enough work, he no longer tried. Other than Feng Zhao, everyone else understood what Enan meant by a taste of Majo's flavor. Since their big senior disciple was treating, they had to give him face, so they naturally wouldn't reject him. As the little junior disciple, Feng Zhao was brought along by everyone. Red Sea Flower Street was a shopping and entertainment district in Majo's capital, Shavana. It was a long strip along the inner sea's Red Sea. This street had originally been called Triumph Street. Back then, during the founding era celebration, the entire street had been filled with fresh flowers. Later on, every Memorial Day, flower pots would be brought out as a backdrop, so it had become known as Flower Street. Enan was treating everyone to a rather stylish bar on Red Sea Flower Street. The design was very artistic, and most importantly, the alcohol here was very good. The alcohol was good, The atmosphere was good, the food was not bad, and there were many people in the bar. Enan had clearly been here many times and was very familiar with the place. More than 10 people found a place to sit down and eat and drink. Fang Zhao quietly listened to this bunch of seniors brag and also diverted some attention to listen to the performances in the bar. The electronic blues with a hint of melancholy did not dampen Enan's good mood. Although Enan didn't seem reliable, he had the ability. He had a thorough analysis of the performances in the bar and could accurately point out which notes were not played correctly. After 2 or 3 cups of alcohol, these people, who usually seemed rather calm, relaxed and chatted about their own composing paths, successes, and failures. To be able to catch Carter's eye, these people all had sufficient ability, and many of their experiences were worth learning from. After filtering out some things, Fang Zhao decided to organize the rest into notes when he returned. 2 hours later, Fang Zhao supported Enan to the restroom. "Hey, there's no need to support me. I, your eldest senior, still know the way to the restroom." Enan nudged Fang Zhao and pointed to his head. "Don't think that I'm drunk, but my mind is still clear." Fang Zhao was not at ease and followed a few steps behind. Although Enan's footsteps were a little weak, he was in the right direction and could clearly recognize the signs. Enan walked into the restroom, and someone bumped into him. Luckily, Enan had dodged quickly, or else he would have been knocked to the ground. However, the person who bumped into him had also drunk too. His entire body reeked of alcohol and carried a murderous aura. His strong physique and firm muscles gave off an oppressive aura. When he looked up, his scarlet eyes were like those of a ferocious beast, making Enan tremble. "Don't you have eyes?" the other party roared. Enan was so angry that he sobered up. It was clearly the other party who had drunk too much and bumped into him. Yet the villain was complaining first? However, when encountering such a situation, Enan was still very experienced. When encountering a conflict, one would see what kind of person the other party was. If it was a soft persimmon, of course one had to pinch it. If it was a drunken retard or an unreasonable lunatic, then there was no need to argue with them. Just say a few words and hurry off. For the person before him, if you tried to reason with him, he would directly use his fists. If he didn't run, would he stay here and get beaten up? Thus, Enan didn't even go to the restroom and planned to leave immediately. However, he had drunk too much. Even if his mind was sober, his legs were still a little weak. If not for Fang Zhao coming over to support him, he would probably have fallen to the ground. Enan gave Fang Zhao a grateful glance, then his gaze drifted to the drunkard before looking toward the door, indicating, "Hurry up and run. Don't waste time talking to this retard." Fang Zhao approved of Enan's choice and supported Enan as they prepared to leave. However, even though they wanted to avoid, the other party seemed to be even angrier. His expression was gloomy, and his fists were clenched so tightly that they made cracking sounds. "What was that look you had just now? Looking down on me? Are you fucking asking for a beating?" Fang Zhao, huh? Chapter 379. Enan was in a daze when he left the restroom. He had thought that the drunken lunatic would come over to beat him up, but before he could react, the man had collapsed. "Junior, are we just going to leave him like that?" Enan was worried. Fang Zhao replied calmly, "It's fine. Someone went over to the restroom just now. It's his friend." "How did you know?" "I heard it." Enan. "All right." The others didn't notice Enan's strange behavior when they saw him return. It was about time, and someone suggested returning to the hotel. It was fine to hang out, but not too late. Professor Carter didn't restrict their private lives, but they couldn't go overboard. Otherwise, Carter would mercilessly kick them out of the project team. Enan wasn't in the mood to stay at the bar any longer. Let's go. Get a good rest when we get back. We'll have the energy to seek inspiration tomorrow." As they were leaving the bar, a police car happened to pass by. Enan's heart tightened. He glanced at Fang Zhao. Seeing that Fang Zhao didn't seem flustered, Enan thought to himself, this junior's mental fortitude is really strong. Enan was preoccupied. When he returned to the hotel, his assistant didn't pay him much attention. Enan was always like this when he had too much to drink. Maybe he was pondering his creative ideas. After the assistant left, Enan immediately searched the internet. There was no big news about the bar, and he heaved a sigh of relief. Now that he thought about it, he felt that Fang Zhao was indeed a young man who was impulsive, but he didn't feel that Fang Zhao had done anything wrong. After all, Fang Zhao had done it to protect him. Sigh, I will definitely take good care of Junior in the future. Previously, Enan had decided to take care of Fang Zhao for the sake of Carter and Mo Lang, but now that Fang Zhao had helped him, he was a little more sincere. The next day, when Enan woke up, the first thing he did was go online and check out the nearby news. There was still no news about the bar, and his uneasiness was finally put to rest. It seemed like it was just as Fang Zhao had said. Nothing major had happened. There was no need to worry about it. However, the smile on Enan's face froze as soon as it appeared. He saw the sports news being pushed to him. One of the articles was about yesterday's Spartacus Cup match, including the results of yesterday's heavyweight boxing match and the photos of the top 3 finishers. Heavyweight, boxing, silver medal? Still in disbelief, Enan searched for the photo of the silver medalist, Danny, and recalled the drunken lunatic he had met yesterday. Too similar. If that's true, that means, on his first day in Majo, Junior brother had beaten the Spartacus Cup heavyweight boxing silver medalist. Suddenly, he felt that he couldn't bring this junior brother along. The pressure was really great. At the same time, in a private hospital, when the people inside saw Danny, they hurriedly avoided him. After all, there wasn't just one toilet in the bar. So, there wasn't anyone else in the toilet? One of the policemen asked. Probably. What happened after that? Who did you meet? After that, I think I bumped into someone. The 2 policemen and the club manager perked up. What did he look like? I don't remember. I think he was an old man with a lot of white hair. The 2 policemen looked at each other. There were too many people with white hair, so they couldn't deduce anything. You don't remember what he looked like at all? The policeman asked. Danny shook his head. What happened after that? Think back carefully, especially the details, the policeman said. After that, I was lying on the ground. Thinking back, Danny began to doubt his life. He had been knocked out so easily yesterday? He couldn't even remember how he had been knocked out. The club manager frowned. He couldn't think of anyone who could have knocked Danny down so easily, not even the champion yesterday. However, the 2 policemen caught a detail in Danny's words. Wait, you said lying? You were lying down when you were knocked out? I'm not finished, Danny said. Go on, think carefully, don't miss a single detail. Yes, he even helped me turn over. And then? I think I vomited. One of the policemen nodded and said, Yes, you vomited. Also, when your friend found you yesterday, you were lying on your side. Yes, I remember someone helped me turn over after I fell down. The 2 policemen asked for more details, but Danny couldn't remember much. When he didn't take people seriously, he wouldn't try hard to remember what they looked like, whether they were drunk or not. He wouldn't waste his brain cells to remember people he didn't like. After he was knocked down and doubted his life, his memory became deeper, but it wasn't clear. The only impression he had was the flash of white hair. Moreover, the more he thought about it, the more Danny was devastated. He had lost the competition yesterday, and he was quite unhappy. He had almost won the gold medal. No one would feel good about it. But now, that bellyful of unwillingness had suddenly disappeared completely. This change was like someone who had always thought he could go against heaven and earth, only to find out that he was a loser. With such a huge psychological gap, what gold medal, what loss in the finals, what unwillingness, everything was thrown aside. At this moment, the phrase that kept repeating in Danny's mind was, Am I really that bad? The 2 policemen glanced at Danny, who was hugging his head and looking like he had suffered a heavy blow. Such a big fellow now looked a little wronged. Cough. We roughly understand the situation. Based on what you said, Mr. Danny, the other party didn't seem to have any malicious intent. Firstly, they didn't cause you any physical harm. Secondly, they even helped you turn over to prevent you from suffocating while lying on your back. We will continue to investigate this matter. If you recall any important clues, you can contact us. As long as it wasn't a competitor's malicious retaliation, Danny's matter wasn't a big deal in Majo. Compared to the 2 drunkards who were smashing things on the other side of the street, Danny simply wasn't a big deal. Furthermore, this matter had been started by Danny, so it was normal for him to be beaten up. The two policemen left very quickly. The club manager looked at Danny, who was hugging his head and thinking about life, and his emotions were complicated. So, the conspiracy theory didn't hold water? Then who was the one who beat him up? That mysterious white-haired guy? While Danny was doubting his life, the person who had traumatized him was following his seniors to the competition grounds in search of inspiration. Inan and a few others brought Fang Zhao over to watch a tennis match. To fully experience the atmosphere of competitive sports, they didn't sit in the VIP boxes or special grandstands. Instead, they sat together with ordinary spectators. Today was the Spartacus Cup tennis men's singles gold medal match. It was also a match that received a lot of attention. On one side was the veteran dew mower, who was currently ranked 8th in the men's singles world rankings. He had suddenly exploded this year and hadn't entered the top 20 in the past. During this Spartacus Cup, he had exceeded his usual standards. It was as if he had turned on a cheat, consecutively defeating strong opponents in the first few rounds and charging into the gold medal match. Today was also the final match of his professional career. On the other side was the young tennis player Midasi, who hadn't dropped out of the top 3 in the world rankings in recent years. He was a handsome young fellow nicknamed the Little Prince of Tennis. Some fans also affectionately called him Little Me. Midasi had won many championships in open tournaments and tournaments. The only thing he lacked was the Spartacus Cup gold medal. After so many tournaments, he had only won a silver medal every time. Gradually, he had gained another nickname. During Spartacus Cup competitions, he had been jokingly called Eternal Second. Of these two, one had said he would retire after this match, while the other had said he would retire if he didn't win the gold medal. Thus, the media was paying a lot of attention to this match. Taking a deep breath, Inan took in the complex mix of sweat, body odor, snacks, and perfume. Who do you think will win? I can't guess, Fang Zhao replied seriously. He had watched videos of the previous matches of both sides and had analyzed their conditions today. It was really hard to say who would win. Haha, that's right. Inan laughed. You have no way of guessing when a miracle will occur, nor do you know what will happen in the next moment. I love this kind of twist, because every time a twist occurs, countless musical notes will rush into my brain. As a composer, you understand this kind of mystical feeling of having your brain filled with musical notes, right? Chapter 380. In Mahjong, cheating was a disgrace. The moment a match-fixing scandal was exposed, one would be permanently banned from Mahjong. Want to continue playing? Sure, play as you like in other continents, but Mahjong didn't welcome you. In serious cases, you might even be banned from entering the country. Many experts had made predictions about the outcome of this gold medal match, but no one could say for sure which side had a higher probability of winning. The following match also confirmed this. The gold medal match lasted 3 days. On average, they played for more than 5 hours a day. The total duration was more than 10 hours, breaking the Spartacus Cup's all-time record. This was a battle of the pinnacle that didn't involve any underhandedness. Both athletes displayed their superb competitive conditions. They competed in technique, tactics, stamina, and mental state, illustrating what a competition was. They really gave it their all. Inan sighed. When he was free, he would play tennis with his friends. Playing for half an hour was already unbearable, let alone 5 hours. Indeed, on the arena, these two are very admirable athletes, Fang Zhao said. Fans cheered their idols crazily. Even people who weren't interested in these two started to pay attention to this match. You could dislike them, but you couldn't not respect them. The media also focused their cameras on the arena. Watching this match that seemed to be burning their lives, Fang Zhao felt that these two's announcement of retirement before the match was probably true. It wasn't something the media had said out of anger. These two hadn't given themselves the option to retreat. If they'd retreated a little, they wouldn't have been able to fight to this extent. On the third day, both sides played for more than 7 hours before a victor was decided. The moment the match ended, veteran dew mower seemed to forget his physical exhaustion as he watched the score displayed on the big screen. He roared and ran a lap around the arena, his face filled with tears of excitement. In contrast was the silent Midas. Midas clutched his racket and lay on the grass, his other hand covering his eyes. After a while, he lowered his arm. His reddened eyes were filled with tears as he gazed quietly at the sky. Midas got up and hugged Mower, who had run over. He bowed, waved, and raised both arms to clap for himself, for his opponent, and for all the spectators watching this match. He had done his best. He had nothing to complain about this result. On the court, a sad rock song with a sense of farewell played. The lead singer's rough and slightly hoarse voice expressed his love and helplessness for this competition. At this moment, many of the audience came back to their senses. Mower has no regrets in retiring. After all, he has already entered a period of decline. This explosion has exhausted the last of his strength. His body probably won't be able to recover for another 5 years. But Midas is different. Is he really going to retire? No way. Midas is still so young. He's only 36 this year. For the people of the new era, whose lifespan had doubled, 36 years old was considered young. Right now is the peak of Midas's career. It's the true golden age. Even if he loses this match, there will still be opportunities in the future. After all, Midas is so young. He can play for another 40 years. Let's wait and see what Midas's club has to say. They won't let go of a cash cow like Midas. Even without the Spartacus Cup gold medal, Midas has won many championships in other important competitions. With 3 consecutive days of highly anticipated gold medal matches, Midas's popularity will only increase. Midas's retirement aside, just this gold medal match alone was worth it to the spectators for a ticket to watch 3 days of competition. How satisfying. For the media, there were plenty of things to write about. It was even more worth it. The Prince of Tennis lost again in the finals. The Prince didn't win again today. Another brand terminates its partnership with Midas. The number 2 loses another endorsement deal. In the competitive continent of Immerse, all the major brands preferred to choose champions. Although Midas had won many championships in other competitions, the Spartacus Cup was an undeniable flaw. Coupled with the media's coverage, it was like a huge black mark on him that couldn't be washed away. The media seized on this point to attack him. After the awards ceremony, while everyone was discussing whether Midas would really retire, Midas's club released news of his retirement at a press conference. He's really retiring? I can't figure it out. I really can't figure it out. Isn't it just a Spartacus Cup gold medal? He'll just get it in the future. Midas has only been playing for 20 years. Maybe he's been dealt a blow. After all, he's been a professional for 20 years. He's always been second in the Spartacus Cup. He's not weaker than anyone, and he fights hard. What can he do now that he's retired? Coaches can also be suppressed. After all, it's hard to get rid of the number 2 label. What happens when a number 2 is taught by a number 2? Plus, he's young. Even if A-grade and above clubs hire him, they will lower his salary. It's not worth it. If that's the case, he might as well join the entertainment circle. Many athletes in Majo entered the entertainment circle after retiring. Given Midas's looks and popularity, the chances of him joining the entertainment circle were high. Back in the hotel, Inan watched the highlights of the match again and wiped his tears. I want to compose a song for them. Sigh, little me, what a pity. Inan rather liked Midas as a tennis player. The outcome of the match couldn't be blamed on anyone else. Everyone had tried their best. Seeing the online speculation about Midas's retirement, Inan sought out Feng Zhao. I saw a lot of people online saying that Midas will probably enter the entertainment circle after retiring. Junior, you understand the entertainment circle. See if you can help him. This guy is really pitiful. He lost his endorsement deal, lost his gold medal, and is being slandered online. Feng Zhao thought about it and said, I don't think he needs my help. Given his temperament, he has probably already thought of his future path. Sigh, in any case, I'll help him if I can, Inan said. He thought Feng Zhao was using it as an excuse to not help, but he suddenly remembered that Mo Lang and Carter might not allow Feng Zhao to get involved with the entertainment circle. He had wanted to say something, but he swallowed it back down. Feng Zhao glanced at Inan and explained, no matter what the media says now, I feel that his future achievements won't be bad. As for the media that are taking advantage of this opportunity to stab him in the back, they will be slapped in the face. Inan didn't take Fang Zhao's words seriously and just sighed. He was a more emotional person. When he thought about Midas's performance on the court and the mocking comments online, he couldn't help but feel suffocated. Uncomfortable. I'll go back and compose a song to vent. Inan sighed as he left. Although Fang Zhao felt it was a pity for Midas, he didn't think that Midas had made an impulsive decision. He knew very well what he was doing. That night, Midas's club held a press conference regarding his retirement. The image of Midas crying on the court had already dominated many news headlines. Fans were heartbroken. Now, both fans and haters were paying close attention to this live broadcast of his retirement press conference. Many authoritative sports media could be seen on the screen. On the screen, Midas's eyes were still red. As he spoke, he choked up a little. After adjusting his emotions, he continued speaking. Looking back at my 20 years as a professional athlete, I actually don't have much resentment. I'm more grateful. In these 20 years, I never dared slack off. Even today, I can still stand here with my head held high and chest out. With my head lowered, I have firm steps, and my head raised, I have a clear direction. In these 20 years, I've experienced the charm of competition, but I've also experienced the cruelty of competition. Retirement wasn't an impulsive decision, nor was retirement a compromise. I have my own life and my own responsibilities. After retirement, no matter where I am, be it in the past, present, or future, I will never be negative. Thank you to the club and fans for your help and support these 20 years. Thank you to my coach. I'm very sorry that I wasn't able to help him win a Spartacus Cup championship. Beside him, the coach's eyes were red, and he sighed in his heart. During his speech, he told everyone about how difficult it had been for Midas. I still remember 20 years ago, that 16-year-old youngster came over alone with just a bag. He played in the club for 20 years. At the start of this year, he told me, "Coach, this is my last chance." He was under a lot of pressure. I don't know what he had been through, but he had always been very hardworking. In terms of ability, he didn't lose to any champion. Back then, Midas had been so dazzling. In his first year, he had charged into the top of the leaderboards. His handsome appearance and formidable ability had quickly made him one of the most popular sports stars in Majo. All sorts of endorsements had swarmed him. After that, he had participated in all sorts of tournaments and open tournaments. He had also won many championships, except for the Spartacus Cup, where he had always placed second. Even when he had been assigned to the death group, he had fought his way out and ended up lying on the silver medalist's seat. It could be said that he had defeated every champion many times, but he just hadn't been able to win the Spartacus Cup gold medal. Gradually, the number of brands that sought him out to endorse also decreased. There were innumerable people who made sarcastic remarks or made up jokes. As for whether those words were stabbing Midas's heart, they didn't care. As long as there was traffic, attention, and he could vent, that was enough. Just like now, in the comments section of the live broadcast of his retirement press conference, fans and haters had already exchanged several rounds of gunfire. Fans had watched Midas's retirement speech and the video clips, and they had long been sobbing uncontrollably. They felt so heartbroken that they couldn't breathe. They were also endlessly worried about Midas's life after retirement, and the haters were still jabbing where it hurt. He doesn't allow others to say that he doesn't have the ability. Who is to blame if he can't win? That's why I say this is fate. Who is to blame if he can't take it anymore and retires now? If he doesn't have a strong heart in the arena and can't take the pressure from the outside world, why would he come to the arena? After he retires, he should settle down in the entertainment industry and save up some money to support himself in old age. For people from Majo, only those who weren't doing well or had retired would go to the entertainment industry. In Majo, the most popular stars were undoubtedly the competition stars. What popular movie kings and actresses couldn't compare to the current popularity of the competition stars? At the press conference, the media started asking questions after Midas and the others had finished speaking. What are your plans after retirement? Will you enter the entertainment industry? What kind of work will you be doing? Will it be related to tennis? Midas replied, I should move from the arena to behind the scenes. When the reporters heard this, they got excited. His words had a lot of content. "Are you planning to become your own boss and start a club?" a reporter asked. Midasis smiled sheepishly. "I don't think I've told everyone what my surname is." The media? Even Midasis' coach looked over suspiciously. Midasis had taught Midasis for so many years, but he had never mentioned his surname. It wasn't on his identification card, so no one had mentioned it. For many people, surnames weren't that important. Midasis coughed lightly. "My full name is Midasis Mars." The venue suddenly went silent. The comments section of the live broadcast room went silent. Fans, haters, the media, and everyone in the club. "Say that again. What's your surname?" The surname Mars was only used by that tyrannical family in Majo. The coach's mouth was wide open as he froze on the spot. His eyes were dazed and his face was full of disbelief. The media, which had been getting high on their mocking of Midasis, trembled in fear. Chapter 381. What had happened to Midasis had shocked the masses of online viewers. It was as if they had always thought that the other party was a pitiful child, only to find out that the other party's family had a mind. The other party's family really had a mind. Not only did they have a mind, but they also had a throne. Although there was no longer an emperor, the Mars family's status in Majo was transcendent, and their nature was more or less the same. Fans who had been shedding tears because of Midasis' regretful retirement forcefully held back their tears. Meanwhile, those haters who had publicly flamed Midasis were racking their brains to think of ways to take back their words. A certain editor, who had been writing the undeniable facts behind the failure of the Eternal Number 2, nimbly deleted the almost finished draft with one click, leaving no trace behind. Then he started writing the years the tennis prince struggled while hiding his surname. Many people were complaining that Midasis had cheated others, but a portion of people who understood the Mars family could empathize with Midasis' actions. Not everyone with the Mars family's bloodline could have this surname. Midasis had not written his surname on his identity card in the past. Perhaps it had not been intentional, but he had not been able to have this surname at the time. That was indeed the case. Midasis had only obtained the surname Mars later on, but he had not updated his identity information. However, the family had already acknowledged that after his retirement, he would start a new life with a new identity. His identity card would also carry the glorious family surname Mars. The press conference was still ongoing. Midasis did not become complacent because of this surname. He expressed that this surname was both an honor and an even greater responsibility. In the past, it had been Midasis as a tennis player. After today, it would be Midasis as a member of the Mars family. Together with the other members of the Mars family, he would make Majo a better place. At the same time, elsewhere in Majo, at the scene of a certain commercial product launch, an elderly member of the Mars family was asked about Midasis by a reporter. He laughed and said, "What we examine is ability, temperament, character, and other overall qualities." They had rather strict requirements for their descendants. Even though Midasis had not been able to obtain the Spartacus Cup trophy, he had already proven himself and passed the family's test. While others did not know what the Mars family elder was thinking, Zero's father, who was far away in Lijo, felt that this bunch of people were stabbing at his heart with every word. They were really poking where it hurt. He looked at other people's children and then at his own idiot who did not have any self-awareness. He was panicking. If he didn't work hard, he would be a burden to the family. Recently, Zero was eager to fry walnuts. Because of the sudden walnut craze, Zero was tempted again. He sent 2 walnuts to the old man. The old man, who was biased to begin with, was happy and did not stop Zero from frying walnuts. He only told Zero to pay a certain amount of tax. In this aspect, the old master was very strict. Zero also knew the old master's bottom line. After probing the old master's attitude, Zero rubbed his fists and prepared to go all out. However, just as Zero was plotting with his agent, the incident with Midasis and Majo had aroused the vigilance of Zero's father. He could not allow this idiot to continue acting so impudently. Zero's father couldn't really keep an eye on him all the time, and he didn't have the time either. The last time he had brought Zero back to give him a beating, the old master had called him over for a chat. How infuriating. What was he supposed to do with that idiot? Unable to excel in literature or martial arts, lacking in IQ or talent, Zero's father decided to kick this idiot out to help the poor. Midas's retirement press conference had not only caused a storm in the Majo region, but it had also affected other continents. Midas himself had no idea. After the press conference, he had disappeared. Some people said that he had participated in the family business, while others joked that Midas was undergoing training to inherit the throne. However, everyone's various guesses were merely joking, because everyone knew that there were many people in the Ma-Ursi clan and that there wasn't just one Midas. Inheriting the throne was just a joke. Of course, it was also because of the Ma-Ursi surname that no matter how people joked, they wouldn't have any ill intentions. And this actually didn't have much of an impact on people from other continents. At the time, they might be a little interested, but they would just treat it as news and throw it to the back of their minds. For example, Fang Zhao's team had missions on them. They didn't have that much time to join the Majo natives in watching the commotion. In the following days, they roamed all over the place, collecting materials, composing, and holding team meetings every 2 or 3 days. The team had at least half a year to compose an album with the theme of the Spartacus Cup. Now, the most important thing was to take advantage of the Spartacus Cup to experience the atmosphere and the charm and inner spirit of sports. Today, Fang Zhao followed a few seniors out to collect materials. After dinner, the others either returned to the hotel or had other activities. Fang Zhao didn't follow them out. He went to a small park not far from the hotel for a run. The hotel gym was crowded and noisy. Fang Zhao preferred to run in places like the park. However, the park was only quieter at night, so Fang Zhao chose this time to run. There were many hotels nearby, and there were more foreigners. Few people came to the park to run at night. Everyone was used to the gym and didn't like running outside. Furthermore, it was already late, so non-locals were even less willing to run in the park. Fang Zhao ran 2 laps in the park and bumped into someone. The other party looked very young, like a student who hadn't graduated yet. He was wearing a retro punk-style hoodie and ran over to strike up a conversation. "Hey, bro, running? How many laps have you done?" the person asked. 2 laps, Fang Zhao replied. "I just started running. There are so few people out to run at this time. Are you a professional athlete?" "No, I'm not either, but I will be soon. Right now, I'm just a nobody, not worth mentioning. Just passerby A. What about you?" "Passerby B. Ha ha ha, bro. You are so funny," the other party guffawed. "Fang Zhao, it's so boring to be alone. Let me run with you," the other party said. "No need. You're welcome. Really? All right then, you run first." After Fang Zhao had run for a while, the other party stretched his limbs and started running. He followed behind Fang Zhao, keeping a certain distance from him. He planned to maintain this distance. Because he was in a good mood, he even hummed a little tune. If his coach heard him, he would surely start scolding him, but the coach wasn't around. Today was his first time in Majo. He had been headhunted by a certain club manager. In the past, he hadn't understood competitive sports. Other than his family's business, he hadn't paid much attention to anything else. This time, in order to start a new life in Majo and become a professional athlete, he had done some research on some of Majo's famous athletes. The person in front of him seemed a little familiar. Perhaps it was because the lighting was dim and he couldn't see clearly, but he was sure he wasn't on the list of names he had seen in the documents. If he couldn't remember, then he wouldn't think about it. In any case, he was definitely not an important person. He had just said to Fang Zhao that he was a nobody, not worth mentioning, but that was just verbal modesty. In fact, he had high aspirations. His hometown had many mountains, so the tourism industry was more developed. Every day, he would go up and down the mountains to fetch tourists and help run errands. Practically every day was spent running. The locals were all good runners, and he was the best runner in his town. Today, he had met a few of his colleagues at the club and felt that their abilities were only so-so. No wonder the manager had gone all the way to other continents to headhunt people. The legends of the Marzu sports continent were indeed exaggerated. At this moment, he just couldn't sleep. He hadn't adjusted to the time difference, so he simply didn't feel sleepy. He also wasn't used to the gym, so he had searched for a map and left his apartment to run here. In any case, there wasn't anyone else running in the park. There was only one person in front of him, so he would accompany him and run for a while as a warm-up. After the other party left, he would continue running for another hour and return to the club. Then he would run for another 2 hours. 1 hour was too short. It was no different from a warm-up, or perhaps 3 hours. Anyway, he had nothing to do. He might as well expend some energy. Perhaps he could fall asleep when he was tired. Chapter 382. There was a person following behind him. Fang Zhao paid attention to him for a bit before putting him aside. He didn't sense any threat from the other party, so he let him run. Late at night, the surrounding towering hotels were still brightly lit, but the number of people in this small park was dwindling. Only 2 figures were left running. Fang Zhao ran laps in the park. This sort of quiet environment made it easier for him to think. During his time in Immerse, he had gained a lot. Not only had he gained a better understanding of teamwork and gained a lot of experience, but he had also learned a lot of composing techniques from others. The sports arenas of Immerse were more intense than those of other continents, especially the kind of atmosphere that couldn't be experienced in other continents. For his team members, it was a precious source of inspiration. It was an experience that video recorders couldn't give them. Fang Zhao didn't know how the others were progressing, but he already had a rough idea. He recalled the scenes from the arenas he had seen. Even though he was just sitting in the stands, he could feel the throbbing of his heart and sweat and the joy of advancing. His stamina and fighting spirit burned wantonly, emitting a dazzling radiance. Countless sounds erupted from the arena, brushing past each other. Intense, soothing, high-pitched, low-pitched. A series of tunes appeared in his mind. The tempo of the tunes varied between fast and slow. His feet also followed the tune floating in his mind, running to the beat. Fang Zhao didn't have a specific training goal when he came here to run. He was more casual. When inspiration was active, his body followed it. However, Fang Zhao was at his wit's end, but the person following behind him was at a loss. At the start, that fellow was humming a tune and studying Fang Zhao's running techniques. Although he wasn't considered a true professional athlete and didn't know or care about the long-distance running techniques in professional competitions, after signing with the club, he had received a short period of professional guidance. After observing Fang Zhao's running style, that person came to this conclusion. Tisk. One look and I can tell he's an amateur. After 3 laps, he saw Fang Zhao in front of him start to pick up speed. His somewhat sluggish state of mind perked up, and he felt a little excited. Speeding up? Simulating a sprint? With this thought, he also picked up speed. The experience of accompanying a passerby while running wasn't bad. After a while, he felt something was amiss. Wasn't this sprint simulation a little too long? After another few laps, Fang Zhao slowed down. That person secretly heaved a sigh of relief. He's finally done. Is he taking a break before leaving? However, Fang Zhao slowed down for a few laps before picking up speed again. The man. Again? He watched as Fang Zhao ran lap after lap, sometimes fast, sometimes slow. Sometimes he sped up for a long time, and sometimes it was just a short half a lap. Are you kidding me? He really wanted to stop the person in front of him and tell him, "Brother, this is not how you run. You won't be able to run for long like this." However, 1 hour passed, 2 hours passed, and Fang Zhao continued. For Fang Zhao, who had a symphony orchestra living in his brain, this was how his brain worked. A piece of music passed. This paragraph is not bad, but there are still some places that need to be changed. After a while, he went through the revised version in his mind again and again and again, and there were a few minor changes. He went through the second revision twice in his mind. All right, the latter part. Something's wrong here, modify. N times. Fix again. N times, as a result, his pace was sometimes fast and sometimes slowed down. Sometimes, he sped up for a long time, and sometimes he slowed down right after. At the same time, the mood of the person running behind him went like this, feeling pleased, curious, speechless, bad premonition, feeling very pressured, body starting to feel tired, final stubbornness, mania. The person in front was still running, freaking speeding up again and slowing down again. There was no logic to this running at all. What was he trying to do? Was he trying to run away? Later on, the energy to be mad was gone. It felt like his heart and lungs were about to go on strike. His heart rate was rising, and he was exhausted. Every muscle in his body was protesting. I can't run anymore. I can't move anymore. My legs are not listening to me. Seeing that he was being left further and further behind, the person behind finally gave up. He moved to a bench at the side and sat down with heavy steps. His eyes were filled with endless confusion, and he was in a trance. He thought that he was blessed by the heavens and that he had a strong reserve of stamina from running all year round. But at this moment, he was reduced to dregs. He was like a stone statue, his dull gaze following Feng Zhao's figure. He watched as Feng Zhao continued to run. One lap, and another lap. At this moment, he suddenly understood what the manager who had signed him had said. Heavy responsibilities and a long way to go. Sure enough, it was as everyone had said. It wasn't that easy to squeeze into Immerse's top athletic circles. There were so many talented athletes, but how many of them could actually squeeze into the top ranks? No matter how strong you are, there will always be someone stronger. There will always be someone stronger, and there will always be someone higher. Just a night run and the passerby he had met already possessed monstrous stamina. And this was someone who wasn't even in the top ranks. Then in Immerse's top athletic circles, weren't those godlike professional athletes geniuses among geniuses, monsters among monsters? Sitting on the bench in the small park, Feng Zhao adopted a serious attitude for the first time, as if he were on a pilgrimage, as he examined this path of a professional athlete. Time passed slowly, and Feng Zhao's pace finally slowed down until he came to a stop. Watching the hazy horizon, Feng Zhao took a deep breath, listening to the sound of seeds bursting out of the soil and the rustling of tree branches in the wind. The world was so beautiful that it was mesmerizing. At this time, there were only 2 people in the small park. Besides Feng Zhao, there was also that passerby sitting on the bench by the grass. Feng Zhao knew this passerby. Previously, he had been jogging for a while, but then he stopped and sat on the bench to rest. He didn't leave and just sat there like that, like a lost little cub. Kids these days. Feng Zhao thought to himself and smiled at the passerby. The lost little cub, sitting on the bench, came back to his senses. His expression changed, and he looked at Feng Zhao as if he was looking at some frightening creature. After hesitating for a bit, he still said, how do you feel now? Not bad, Feng Zhao replied. The lost little cub felt like his chest had been stabbed once again, and his vision slowly collapsed. How was this not bad? Feng Zhao looked like he was in high spirits. Feng Zhao still wanted to show some concern for this little friend. No, I don't want to talk to you now. The other party got up and ran off. At a certain club, the manager stood at the entrance with an ashen face. The newly signed seedling was a thorn in the side. This kind of extremely talented seedling had a stronger foundation than many people. After training for 2 years, next year, he might be able to let him participate in the competition. Such a good seedling, he planned to train him as a secret weapon. He already knew that this newcomer had beaten everyone else in the club's small competition yesterday. Geniuses had their own pride. The more this was so, the more they needed to be polished. Before that, this seedling with potential couldn't be cocky. Still saying that he could go out for a night run and run the whole night? Bullshit. The manager was pondering how he was going to reprimand him later when that person wearing a retro punk-style hoodie appeared in his line of sight. However, before he could say anything, the other party seemed to use all his strength to sigh and say, "The continent of competition indeed lives up to its reputation. Crouching tiger, hidden dragon." The manager, who had wanted to severely reprimand him today. In one night, how did this new seedling who looked down on others have such a deep understanding? I feel that my spirit has suffered an indelible blow. I finally understand what you said, manager. You are right, the newcomer said excitedly. Manager, what did I say? Although he couldn't remember what he had said, the manager looked at the newly signed young talent who had suffered a heavy blow. He gave his affirmation. "You really are a very strong and talented athlete." The newcomer was already on the verge of tears. "No, manager, you don't have to console me. I know I am actually very weak." "Very weak." "Manager, have you ever thought about the feelings of those people you beat on the first day?" At this time, the agitated newcomer greeted the manager and called his family. "Majo is too scary. It really deserves to be called the continent of competition. Yes, I used to think that Majo people were bragging, but after experiencing it for myself, I realized that I was still too young. I just couldn't sleep and went out for a night run. Guess what I met? That's simply not human. That's a monster. Do you know what a monster is? It's the kind that you don't want to meet a second time. Monster. I can't even muster up the mood to challenge him." The club manager beside him. "Nonsense. How can our Majo be so scary? Don't demonize us Majo people. However, which world champion did this kid meet last night?" There was really nothing to say about his luck. However, the little beast cub simply didn't notice the manager's expression. He still had a lot of thoughts he wanted to share with his family. He had originally thought that he was already outstanding enough. No matter what kind of formidable person he faced, even if he lost, he wouldn't lose too badly. However, the reality was too horrible to look at. Now that he closed his eyes, all that appeared in his mind was that back view. No, that was no longer a back view. That was a psychological shadow. A psychological shadow imprinted at the starting line before his professional career had even officially begun. Chapter 383. The lost little cub felt that he had found his niche. The stamina he was so proud of had been overshadowed, and his previous arrogance had been wiped clean. His understanding of Majo's competitive scene was limited to verbal descriptions and limited documents. He didn't know what was reasonable. He had heard people brag too much in the past, but now he felt that it was normal. Wasn't he just a passerby? There would surely be even more amazing passerby like him. Perhaps he was low-key and wasn't used to competitions. Reality was indeed the most painful. Fang Zhao, who had delivered the blow, had no idea that while the symphony orchestra in his head was playing on a magnificent scale, someone was trembling in the evening wind. After running in the park, Fang Zhao returned to the hotel to wash up. He didn't catch up on sleep. Even though he hadn't slept the entire night, he was still in high spirits. There were too many inspirations in his head, and the music scores were more or less complete. All he had to do now was write them out. By the time he finished arranging the music scores, the sun was already shining brightly outside. Nanfeng saw Fang Zhao come out and hurriedly got someone to send over breakfast. The hotel staff saw Nanfeng order a table full of food and naturally thought it was for multiple people, so they specially prepared extra cutlery. Nanfeng didn't explain and just smiled silently. Nanfeng and the others were already used to the boss's huge appetite. Fang Zhao had disappeared for the entire night and locked himself in his room after returning. They had only come out now. They had asked casually and received a night run in reply. All right, if the boss said night run, then so be it, even though Nanfeng and the others didn't believe him. Fang Zhao could naturally tell that Nanfeng and the others didn't believe him, but he didn't want to explain. He was very hungry after running the entire night. While eating, Fang Zhao received a message from Will. Will was going to an art exhibition and wanted to bring Curly Hair along. During this period, Will had been nurturing Curly Hair's inspiration and wasn't willing to leave or waste time. If his father hadn't personally called him to attend, Will wouldn't have been willing to leave the campus. He didn't even have time to study his own work. Where would he find the energy to study other people's work? Furthermore, he didn't like that person's work. After listening to what Will had to say, Fang Zhao thought for a bit and turned on the video call to check on Curly Hair's condition. This little thing could actually understand a lot of words. When Will had called him, Curly Hair had been at the side, wagging his tail. One look in Fang Zhao could tell that Curly Hair wanted to go out and have fun. Fang Zhao thought about it and asked, "Can I bring a dog to the art exhibition?" Will explained, "It's a private exhibition, organized by a friend of my father's." This time, It's being held in his manor. Only a portion of the circle has been invited, and it's not open to the public. I've asked around, and quite a few people brought their dogs there. It was rare for the quiet Will to explain so much. Since that was the case, Feng Zhao did not reject it. Will also had bodyguards when he went out, and his safety was very good. As for Curly Hair, this dog was always engrossed in gaming at home. Going out for a run was also good. All right, let it interact more with its own kind and make some new friends, Feng Zhao said. After ending the call with Feng Zhao, Will immediately prepared to leave. Previously, this was what Will's father had said to Will. I know you don't like the paintings there, so I won't make you stay too long. Just go over and express your gratitude. I'm busy, so you can go on my behalf this time. Of course, don't leave too early to attend the art exhibition. Stay at least an hour before you leave. Give them some face, got it? An hour was still acceptable to Will. Since his father had requested it, Will agreed. However, he wanted to bring the dog along. Will's father knew that he could not persuade Will on this matter, so he said helplessly, "All right, as long as you get the dog's owner's permission, it's up to you. In any case, you just have to promise to attend." When Will's father was on the phone, a certain relative beside him had also heard it. He turned around and started ranting to his friend. "Did you know? My nephew, the one who got into Huang Art's 12 Tones advanced class. I don't know if he's crazy from painting, but he's actually raising a dog." Raising a dog? The kind that smells if you don't wash it for a day, scratches the floor, picks up flower pots, and barks at the slightest movement. What a devil. After ranting about dogs, he continued, "That nephew of mine must have been kicked by a dog. He actually said he was going to bring a dog to the art exhibition today. Oh my God, I can't imagine it. What a disaster. To actually have to be in the same space as a dog for an art exhibition. There's a separate area for dogs? That won't do either. Just the thought of so many dogs nearby gives me goosebumps." Will did not know that a relative was spreading the news that he had been kicked in the head by a dog. Will was very happy after obtaining Feng Zhao's permission. He was no longer so averse to attending this private art exhibition that he did not like. He felt that this could be a new way to nurture his inspiration. He was rather looking forward to bringing a dog to the art exhibition. However, Will's good mood did not last long. When he brought the dog to the manor where the art exhibition was being held, he found out that dogs were not allowed into the exhibition hall. Will immediately wanted to ask the driver to turn the car around, but in the end, he still got off the car with a sullen expression. Will personally carried Curly Hair off the car. He still had to seize the time to cultivate inspiration with little Curly Hair. Don't worry. The management here is pretty good. They are fed natural dog food produced in Muzhou. It's not chemically synthesized and has no preservatives. It's very expensive, and the dog eats it better than me, a dog owner said to Will. It's true. There are even cameras over there. There are people in charge of watching this place. Don't worry about losing your dog. Any dog here is worth millions, especially the one you brought. It's worth 200 million. Shouldn't we keep a closer eye on it? Another person said. As he spoke, he pointed out the surveillance cameras to Will. No one noticed that Curly Hair, who had been lying quietly in the dog cage, twitched his ears and raised his head to look in the direction of the surveillance cameras before lying back down again. After settling Curly Hair down and registering, Will and his friends left. He turned back and looked inside. Compared to those majestic dogs, Curly Hair was so small and so obedient. Less than 5 minutes after leaving the dog area, Will came over again. He was worried that Curly Hair wouldn't get used to the dog food here, so he specially brought the canned dog food that Curly Hair usually ate. As soon as he entered, Will found that the settlement had become much quieter. The noisy barking had stopped, and he looked at the two big dogs that were barking loudly before. They were now curled up in the corner of the cage, whimpering softly, and their eyes were still looking over. Will didn't mind. His understanding of dogs was still limited. He just felt that this place had become much quieter and didn't feel that anything was out of the ordinary. After putting down the canned food, Will checked Curly Hair's condition. He didn't discover anything wrong with Curly Hair, so he reluctantly left. The exhibition hall was about to start, and he had to hurry over. After Will left, the place became quiet again. Only the sound of Curly Hair eating the canned food could be heard. The large dog next door caught a whiff of the aroma and took 2 tentative steps over. Curly Hair raised his head from his bowl and bared his teeth in that direction. Chapter 384. In the Manor's exhibition hall, the owner of the manor, the organizer of this private exhibition, was cheerfully introducing his works to the crowd. Everyone in the industry commented that he was too materialistic, but he was still sought after by the market. He had some ability and was considered a veteran in the art circle. Will looked at the paintings and calculated the time. Although he didn't like this person's paintings, he had to admit that his painting techniques were worth learning. Of course, in comparison, he was more willing to bring Curly Hair out to nurture his inspiration. That was what he desired the most. Many times, he felt that he was very close to starting his brush, but when he actually picked it up, he was still at a loss. After studying the paintings in the exhibition hall, Will looked at the time. Only half an hour had passed, and he still had to continue listening to the manor owner's exaggerated boasting. This was simply mental pollution. Will didn't continue listening. Instead, he went upstairs alone to look at the manor owner's private collection. The manor owner loved to show off. Besides his own works, he would also display a portion of his collection, all of which were art treasures. There were fewer people upstairs, so it was quieter. Will planned to kill time here and leave with the dog after an hour. As he was looking, he suddenly heard a loud bang. His head felt numb. Then, a few beams of light shot up, and the huge paintings hanging in the exhibition hall were instantly set ablaze. This sudden turn of events made some people panic. The exhibition hall was instantly thrown into chaos. Some people fled. Some people looked for Will. Will was a genius when it came to painting, but he was trash in other aspects, such as his ability to escape. When the turn of events happened, at a time like this where every second was a life wasted, Will was still standing there in a daze. He only moved when other people who were also looking at the exhibits reminded him. His first reaction was to run after the people in front of him. He completely forgot where the exit was. In the chaotic exhibition hall, the usually refined and elegant people didn't care about anything else when their lives were threatened. All they cared about was running for their lives. Will, this useless artist who didn't exercise, was easily pushed aside and knocked down by the people behind him like a weak chicken. He fell to the ground and couldn't get up. His leg was sprained. There weren't many people upstairs. In the blink of an eye, only Will was left. The intelligent fire control system had become a decoration. His personal terminal had also malfunctioned. Will had never imagined that he would encounter such a thing. He had never been mentally prepared and had been caught off guard. Only when one reached that point could one understand what true despair was. As he coughed, his throat felt like it was stuck by something sharp. His breathing became more and more difficult, and his cries for help couldn't drown out the noise around him. He squinted his eyes in discomfort. In his narrow field of vision, he saw a distorted world in the light of the fire. A thick cloud of smoke spread in his direction like a terrifying monster. For Will, who was used to thinking that painting was more important than anything else, at this moment, his mind was filled with endless inspiration. His strongest thought was actually about painting. As Will's thoughts drifted into the chaos of running for his life, inspiration, and drawing, the back of his hand was touched by a wet nose. Woof, woof, woof. Will's muddled mind cleared up a little, and he turned his head to look. Curly Hair nudged Will's arm with his nose again. Woof, 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 woof. Will didn't think about why Curly Hair, who should have been locked up in a cage, was here. At this moment, his heart was filled with gratitude, regret, and boundless regret. Curly Hair had actually found this place before the bodyguards. Oh, right, there was still the painting. The goal he had set for himself during his advanced studies had yet to be accomplished. Thinking of this, Will tossed aside all the distracting thoughts in his mind. Hurry up and get out, cough, cough, cough. Just saying a few words was incomparably difficult. Curly Hair barked a few times and bit on Will's sleeve, wanting to pull it out. Rip! His sleeve was torn to shreds. Will was even more moved. You run, cough, 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 to find someone. You can't drag me. Before Will could finish speaking, Curly Hair gave up on pulling on his sleeve and ran off with Will's collar in his mouth. It was no different from a small twig on a stroll. Will, who was being dragged easily. Boom! A row of display racks came crashing down, right where Will had been lying. He looked up at the rapidly receding ceiling, and the sound of objects collapsing could be heard continuously. Not far away, there were even dense sparks flying about. In that instant, Will finally understood. When Curly Hair dragged Will to the staircase, the bodyguards who had rushed into the exhibition hall in search of Will heard the barking of dogs and hurriedly put a breathing mask on Will before carrying him out of the exit. Curly Hair followed them out together. Outside the exhibition hall, paramedics had already rushed over to treat the injured. Will, who was being carried out of the exhibition hall, felt his surroundings cool down. It wasn't as scorching as before, and the lighting had also become much brighter. He could faintly hear the barking of dogs and the shrieks of an unknown lady not far away. When they reached a safe place, the bodyguard put Will down. Seeing Will's dazed appearance, he thought worriedly, "Will he be scared silly?" "Sir, Mr. Will Jr.," the bodyguard called out. Will, who had been immersed in his own thoughts, was called back to his senses. He raised his hand to indicate that he was fine before continuing to immerse himself in his thoughts. He even muttered, "Wrong? I was wrong before." Seeing Will like this, the bodyguard became even more worried. "It's over. Looks like he's scared silly. Hurry and inform Mr. Will Sr." The bodyguard turned on a video call. When Mr. Will Sr., who had been participating in other activities, heard about what had happened, he was so shocked that his face turned pale. He only calmed down when he heard that Will's life was in no danger. At this moment, Will was in a rather sorry state. His entire body was covered in soot, and his hair smelled burnt. One of his sleeves had been torn, and his eyes were unfocused. Seeing this situation, Will Sr. wasn't in the mood to participate in any activities. He hurriedly dropped what he was doing and rushed over. At the same time, he arranged for private medical personnel and even more bodyguards to rush over. He had even made an appointment with a psychiatrist. How big of a psychological trauma would it be to suddenly encounter such an incident? At this moment, ambulances, fire trucks, and police cars gathered at this manor far away from the hustle and bustle of the city. The only good news was that up until now, no one had died. Even the dogs locked up in the designated area were fine. It was just that those dogs had all escaped, and a portion of the people were busy catching them. Curly Hair, this dog worth 200 million, didn't need Will to say anything. The bodyguards had personally carried him away. Watching the bodyguards bring Will away, some people who had come to the exhibition gathered together. They had been very afraid when the incident had happened, but they weren't afraid now that they had escaped. They were still very curious about the news. "I heard that Will was dragged out of the exhibition hall by that dog he brought," someone said. Wasn't it brought out by the bodyguards?" Someone beside them was astonished. "I know. I just heard from one of the bodyguards that Will was first found by the dog." The bodyguards heard the dogs barking before finding Will and bringing him out of the exhibition hall. Another person interrupted. "Sigh, I really didn't expect that such a small dog could actually drag an adult." Explosive strength? Otherwise, why would you say it's a dog worth 200 million? I don't know if the dog's owner has insured it. I saw that its fur was curled up by the fire just now. No, its fur is naturally curly. I saw that it was quite spirited when it came out, so it shouldn't be injured. Otherwise, how much money would we have to pay? Will didn't leave the dog at the designated area? You still don't know? Someone made a hole in the dog cage at the designated area, and the dogs all escaped. Someone else joined in the discussion. What? There's such a thing? I was wondering why I saw a dog running outside just now. Who did it? Could it be that they wanted to steal the dog? I don't know. I heard that the surveillance cameras were destroyed. The one who broke the cage should have been some kind of special pliers or something that could easily cut the metal bars of the cage. Let's not talk about the dog first. What exactly happened this time? What else could it be? The manor owner offended someone and is being retaliated against. We are suffering because of the hatred he drew. What kind of rubbish is this? Will didn't know what had happened at the manor. After leaving the manor, he had been sent to a hospital ward. He was lost in his own thoughts and was slow to respond to the doctor's questions. He looked like he was in a daze, and he didn't know what he was saying. When the doctors finished their examination, Will Sr. and his wife arrived. Seeing their son lying on the hospital bed in such a pitiful state, their hearts ached so much that their eyes turned red. When they heard the doctor say that Will's mental state wasn't right, Will Sr. and his wife were even more heartbroken. Indeed, this child had been scared silly. They didn't know when the psychological trauma would disappear. If they had known, they wouldn't have forced him to participate in this lousy exhibition. But before Will Sr. and his wife could say anything, Will raised his hand with great difficulty to a bodyguard beside him. His eyes seemed to emit an unprecedented glow. "Help me up. I want to draw." Then, Will's wishes were forcefully suppressed by his father. "Still want to draw at this time? Draw my ass. Don't even think about touching a brush before you recover." Before Mr. Will Sr. reached the hospital, he had sent someone to inform Feng Zhao. After all, that dog was worth 200 million. It was better to inform the owner of such a valuable item. When Feng Zhao received the news, he hurriedly applied for leave from his team and rushed over. Feng Zhao had not expected that Will would actually encounter such a situation when he had only brought Curly Hair to a private exhibition. Not long after Will Sr. and his wife arrived at the hospital, Feng Zhao also arrived. Will Sr. shook Feng Zhao's hand and thanked him profusely. He had already heard that if not for Curly Hair's barks, the bodyguards wouldn't have been able to find Will so quickly. It was very likely that Will would have been buried in the exhibition hall. However, Curly Hair hadn't cooperated with the examination and hadn't allowed the vet to approach. Curly Hair had been taken care of very well. The dust on his body had been cleaned, and it was impossible to tell that he had experienced an accident. When Feng Zhao saw him, Curly Hair was gnawing on a bone. Clearly, Curly Hair hadn't been affected by the accident at all. His appetite was very good, and when he saw Feng Zhao, he wagged his tail happily and whined coquettishly. As Will's life-saving dog, Will Sr. and his wife looked at Curly Hair lovingly and gratefully, as if they were looking at a glowing little angel. Feng Zhao brought the glowing little angel out of the hospital and back to Huang Art's dormitory for advanced studies. Chapter 385. Usually, when Curly Hair didn't allow a checkup, he must have done something. Thus, Feng Zhao gave Curly Hair a checkup after bringing him back. Curly Hair didn't have any external injuries. He hadn't even lost a strand of hair when he walked out of the exhibition hall. Others thought that Curly Hair had been lucky and hadn't been injured by falling objects, but Feng Zhao knew that wasn't necessarily the case. When he plucked out the metal shavings from between Curly Hair's teeth, Feng Zhao knew that the matter wasn't that simple. Feng Zhao had already heard from others about what had happened at the manor. He also knew that the cages where the dogs were kept had all been cut, and that the culprit hadn't been found yet. Feng Zhao sighed. "Where are you injured?" Curly Hair raised a front paw. Feng Zhao pinched the paw and searched carefully for a while before he found a small scratch on the paw. The skin was not broken, and it would have healed if he had waited a little longer. As for the metal shavings stuck between Curly Hair's teeth, the edges were already showing signs of melting. Even if he hadn't plucked them out, they would have been digested. After cleaning up the metal shavings, Feng Zhao rubbed some ointment on Curly Hair's paw. "All right, go play somewhere else." Feng Zhao wanted to find out more information. He needed to know more details about the scene. Curly Hair ran off to play games after getting permission. Feng Zhao, on the other hand, understood some things through his status as the dog's owner and a good friend of Mr. Will Jr. The police were rather efficient. Based on the clues they had and the efforts of those furious artists and entrepreneurs, they found the culprit. The incident at the exhibition hall was indeed a deliberate act of revenge. The mastermind behind it had already been apprehended. The mastermind was an antique dealer who had an old grudge against the manor owner. Not long ago, the manor owner had used some underhanded means to snatch a piece of art from the antique dealer, so the antique dealer now hated him. The manor owner's personal exhibition had been advertised a long time ago, so the antique dealer had set his sights on it. According to the antique dealer, he He had destroyed the manor owner's collection for revenge. He had never intended to kill anyone. The location of the bomb and the fire had been carefully considered. As long as one wasn't physically crippled or unlucky, there would be plenty of time for the attendees to come out. However, there really was someone who was physically useless, had a unique brain circuit, and was unlucky. This time, he sprained his ankle and injured himself. Many people were dumbfounded when they saw Will being sent to the hospital. In the police station, the furious owner of the manor and the gloomy Mr. Antique were quarreling for nearly half an hour. The manor lord, "You're insane." The antique dealer, "You're treacherous." The owner of the manor, "You are extremely vicious and evil, sinister and cunning, bribing the people in my manor to coordinate from the inside and outside. On one hand, you destroyed my collection, and on the other hand, you plotted to steal my dog." The antique merchant's gloomy face was like a storm. "You're slandering me. I'm fucking allergic to dogs." The policeman on the side saw that the two of them didn't get to the point, so he interrupted. "Who tampered with the surveillance cameras in the place where the dogs were placed and the warehouses next to it?" The antique dealer was furious. "I told you. I'll admit to everything else. But the warehouse surveillance has nothing to do with me. I'm innocent. Perhaps it was someone from their manor who wanted to take advantage of the situation. If the owner of the manor is such a greedy dog, how can the people in the manor be any better?" When the owner of the manor heard that the other party didn't forget to pour black water on him even at this point, he slammed the table and stood up. "You're still quibbling. Were you the one who blew up the exhibition hall? Were you the one who got someone to start the fire?" "I admit to that. If you weren't the one who did it, who else could it be? The one who stole the dog must be you. Stealing the dog to sell for money. There was even a dog worth 200 million locked up in there." The antique dealer rushed over and wanted to hit him, but he was restrained by the handcuffs and held back by the police. Seeing the two of them start quarreling again, the police also had a headache. They had clues about everything else, but the matter of the surveillance cameras in the place where the dogs were placed and the surrounding warehouses still hadn't come to a conclusion. After asking the owner of the manor some questions, the police let him go back first. Although no lives had been lost, quite a number of people had been injured. Whether it was minor or major injuries, external injuries or psychological injuries, the people invited to attend the exhibition had been frightened and blamed the owner of the manor. "You're the one who attracted so much hatred. Why did you have to implicate us? You clearly know that you're the target of hatred. Why didn't you do a good job at such an important event like the exhibition?" In short, the owner of the manor couldn't shirk his responsibility. He reckoned that no one would be willing to attend his private exhibitions in the next few years. Even if he increased the security measures tenfold in the future, people invited to attend the exhibition would still have to think twice. There were so many exhibitions, and people only had one life. This time, the antique dealer hadn't been ruthless. But what if it was someone even crazier the next time? The owner of the manor had suffered heavy losses this time. Even if he had bought insurance, those painstakingly painted works and treasures would never come back. After returning, the owner of the manor got people to carefully check the items in a few warehouses. Actually, he somewhat believed what the antique dealer had said. He had even admitted to blowing up the exhibition hall and setting fire to it, so there was no need to hide what had happened in the warehouses. There wasn't anything valuable in the warehouses. The most valuable things in this area were the temporarily placed dogs, especially Feng Zhao's curly hair, which was worth 200 million. But not a single dog had been lost. The owner of the manor started to imagine all sorts of scenarios. For example, someone had placed valuable items in his warehouse and then taken advantage of the chaos to move the items out. Wasn't that how it was done in movies? The people in the manor rummaged through a few warehouses, but still didn't find anything. Perhaps the person who had taken advantage of the chaos to sneak in had already taken the items away. Since he couldn't find any useful information, the owner of the manor didn't intend to continue dwelling on this matter. He had more important matters to attend to. This time, the people he had invited were all well-known artists or entrepreneurs. He had to apologize to them one by one, especially the unlucky little Will. He was the one who had been injured this time, and it was rumored that he had suffered psychological trauma. Just as the owner of the manor was under pressure, Fang Zhao came looking for him. The owner of the manor only received him for a short while before letting the housekeeper bring Fang Zhao to see the location where the dogs had been placed. The manor housekeeper told Fang Zhao that 2 dogs had escaped from the designated location and had even helped apprehend a suspicious person. Later on, it was confirmed that the person had been involved in the arson. But as for how the 2 dogs had escaped from the cages in the designated location, the reason was still unknown. The tool used to cut open the cages hadn't been found, and no one knew what it was. The fracture of the cages is too difficult to determine. I reckon it was some kind of uncommon pliers, the housekeeper said. Can I take a look at the surveillance footage? Fang Zhao asked. Sure. The housekeeper pulled up the surveillance footage. In the surveillance footage, everything was normal at the beginning. Fang Zhao could even see Curly Hair demonstrating to other dogs and happily eating dog food. When the incident occurred in the exhibition hall, there was a loud bang, and the dogs in the designated location started barking in fright. Then, the screen flashed, and nothing else. The rest are all the same. There's a problem with the surveillance equipment, the housekeeper said. It's not just here. The other warehouses in the vicinity are the same. Something happened at the same time. Can I take a look at the surveillance footage of the surrounding warehouses? Fang Zhao asked. The housekeeper hesitated for a bit before replying, Sure. In any case, the warehouses were filled with junk. It wasn't anything shameful. The surveillance footage at the front of the few warehouses was the same. The same situation occurred at the same time. They all flashed for about a second before completely losing their effectiveness. At the location where the dogs were placed, the surveillance footage flickered the most. During that 1 second, no clear image could be seen, as if the system had malfunctioned. Although the surveillance footage at the warehouse further away also flickered at the same time, a blurry silhouette could still be seen. Fang Zhao didn't show it on his face, but his heart pounded. He had seen a similar situation before. That break point that lasted for about a second. Fang Zhao had returned to the Black Street and pulled up the surveillance footage. At a certain moment during his rebirth, there had been a break point in all the surveillance footage. But at that time, the break point hadn't affected the follow-up work of the surveillance footage. But here, after the break point, all the surveillance footage at the designated location in the nearby warehouses had collapsed. Fang Zhao looked at the area where the dogs were placed. The floor was a mess. He could imagine how chaotic it had been when the dogs had been released. Where's the door? Fang Zhao asked. The door here is controlled by a combination lock and requires identification before it can be opened. But at that time, it also malfunctioned, and then the door opened on its own. The housekeeper also felt that this kind of lock wasn't reliable. If it was malfunctioning, it should have been locked. How could it open on its own? Fang Zhao asked a few more questions before leaving the manor. When he returned to Huang Art's dormitory, Fang Zhao pulled out Curly Hair, who was playing games. Curly Hair whimpered and whined coquettishly when his game was interrupted and rubbed against Fang Zhao's trousers. Seeing Fang Zhao's solemn posture, Curly Hair's wagging tail drooped down and his ears drooped as he squatted obediently. Fang Zhao stared at Curly Hair and asked, Were you the one who broke the surveillance footage? Curly Hair tilted his head. His black dog eyes were filled with doubt as his tail moved slowly and cautiously. Fang Zhao paused for a moment before asking, Were you the one who chewed through the cage? Woof. Curly Hair raised his head and wagged his tail proudly, looking like he was asking for praise. Fang Zhao pondered as he watched Curly Hair like this. Curly Hair might have had something to do with the surveillance footage at the storage area and the surrounding warehouses. It was just that Curly Hair didn't know. Or perhaps he had some awareness but didn't really understand. Of course, this was just Fang Zhao's own guess. After the incident at the exhibition hall, Curly Hair had chewed through the cage and then quickly chewed through the other cages to release all the dogs. Only then could he mislead the public. Curly Hair was very pleased with this, so he asked Fang Zhao for praise. Look at how smart I am. As for anything else, Fang Zhao couldn't get any answers. Curly Hair was smart, but he couldn't explain things clearly. Fang Zhao also couldn't ask a dog to speak the human language. Fortunately, There wasn't any evidence pointing at curly hair. Based on his observations, if the manor owner couldn't find out what had happened at the storage area, there was a high chance that he would pin the blame on that antique dealer. Compared to the matter at the exhibition hall, the area where the dogs were kept and the surrounding warehouses weren't that important. Curly Hair saw that Feng Zhao had become silent again and also quietened down. He only squatted down for a while and looked at Feng Zhao, then at the gaming helmet not far away and whimpered softly. Not waiting for Feng Zhao's reply, Curly Hair whimpered a few more times. Feng Zhao waved his hand. Go and play. Curly Hair rushed back excitedly, burrowed his head into the gaming helmet, and started playing. Chapter 386. Feng Zhao's time off was limited. By the time the matters in Huangzhou were more or less settled, the manor's owner had also requested for the matter to die down. Without any evidence pointing to Curly Hair, Feng Zhao planned to bring Curly Hair along to Immerse. He was worried about leaving the dog here. Before leaving, Feng Zhao went to the hospital to visit Will once again. He happened to bump into Will Sr. and his wife, Will Sr., and some others, who were trying to persuade Will to stay in the hospital for observation. Many people felt that Will's luck was especially bad this time, but Will himself did not think so. He felt that his luck was super good this time. He was not mocking himself, but sincerely believed so. Because of this incident, he finally felt that he had broken through the barrier and was able to start painting. Unfortunately, his family did not allow him to leave the hospital and locked up all his painting tools. Will could only draw pictures in his mind. This way, he spoke even less. Anyone would think that this person's psychological trauma must be more serious. Old Will was regretting. I was wrong. I shouldn't have forced him to attend the exhibition. This was the 30th time he had sighed like this. Old Will perked up when he saw Feng Zhao. Feng Zhao asked about Will's condition and learned that the sprain on Will's foot was not serious and that he was recovering well. Other than his foot, Will also had a back injury. He had gotten it when he had been dragged by the dog, but those were all minor injuries. After talking about bringing Curly Hair away, Feng Zhao left under Will's reluctant gaze. Will wanted Curly Hair to stay, but Feng Zhao wouldn't agree this time. After returning to Immerse, Feng Zhao quickly threw himself back into the team's work. As for Curly Hair, his appetite was still as ferocious in a new place, but he wasn't in good spirits. Nanfeng was still worried that Curly Hair might have been frightened or not acclimatized. He wanted to get a vet to take a look, but was stopped by Feng Zhao. This dog was just too free. It wouldn't be happy if it didn't have a game to play. She had to let it move more. Thus, the two salted fish duo once again took on the responsibility of walking the dog. However, the time to walk the dog was at night. There was a rule at the small park not far from the hotel that dogs were not allowed to enter before 10 o'clock at night. After 10 o'clock at night, the small park was basically empty. Pets were only allowed to be taken in for a walk. That day, Zuiyu saw that it was about time, so he brought Curly Hair to a small park for a stroll. After 10 o'clock at night, there were not many people in the small park. It was deserted. Feng Zhao let them run around with Curly Hair. Zuiyu had specially changed into a sports attire before coming out. While walking the dog, Zuiyu noticed a strange kid. The kid was wearing a retro punk-style sweater. He was sitting on a chair by the grass as if he was waiting for someone. When he saw Zuiyu, the kid's gaze swept over him, but he quickly looked away in disappointment. Zuiyu didn't care so much and focused on walking the dog. Curly Hair had probably discovered a mouse that had come out at night. He wanted to chase it excitedly, but Zuiyu pulled him back. You're a dog, not a cat. Why are you catching mice? Be good. We'll go back after running for a while. I'll give you a midnight snack when we get back. Seeing Curly Hair nibbling on a blade of grass, Zuiyu hurriedly stopped him. Don't eat randomly. This was a 200 million yuan dog. What if it got a stomachache? Do you know how to take care of the flowers and plants in the park? Zuiyu said. Feng Zhao had instructed him not to let Curly Hair loose too much. Otherwise, it wouldn't be you walking him, but Curly Hair walking you. The person sitting on the chair nearby scoffed when he heard Zuiyu's words. Talking to a dog about caring for flowers? It was already good enough that they didn't dig a hole. This guy in the sweater was the lost little beast cub that Fang Zhao had dealt a blow to previously. After returning to the club that day, he had started to work hard. However, within 2 days, his lost confidence had soared again. He realized that the other people in the club weren't challenging at all. After understanding the various statistics of the sporting world, the little beast cub started to flaunt his might again and felt that he was still pretty awesome. He even believed that the person he had met in the small park that day who could run the entire night was a robot in human skin. Or perhaps he had seen a ghost? At this thought, he couldn't help but shiver. However, he was even more curious and wanted to confirm once again. Was he too weak, or was the other party inhuman? Thus, he sneaked out at night to keep watch. He didn't see the target on the first day. 2 days passed in a row, but he still didn't see the target. He figured that if he didn't see the target today, he wouldn't come back for the time being. He would just treat the incident that day as a nightmare. What was done was done. If he could forget it, he would forget it. Looking at the deserted little park, he got up and stretched. Since he was already here, he might as well run to his heart's content. While running, he saw Zhuyu jogging with the dog, then glanced at the curly-haired dog and sneered. Little short legs. Strictly speaking, curly hair wasn't a short-legged breed. However, compared to other medium-sized dogs, he was too small and short, which made his legs seem short. Before Zhuyu could express his opinion, he felt the leash in his hands tighten. Curly hair, who had been running leisurely, suddenly charged forward. Zhuyu was shocked. You can't bite people. Fortunately, curly hair only increased his speed and followed behind the other party. He maintained a distance of 2 meters. When the man in the sweater sped up, curly hair also sped up. When the other party slowed down, curly hair also slowed down. In short, they maintained a fixed distance. That little dog's paws even made a scraping sound as they ran. Zhuyu remembered that curly hair's paws didn't make that much noise when he ran. Half an hour passed, and the situation was still the same. An hour passed, and it was still the same. Sweat was dripping from the man in the sweater's forehead. That whooshing sound seemed to be urging him from behind, making his heart flutter with panic. However, while the man in the sweater could still run, Zhuyu couldn't. He wasn't an athlete and hadn't undergone professional training in this area. He also didn't want to give it his all here. Seeing that curly hair still seemed to be full of energy, Zhuyu looked around and saw that there was no one else in the park. There were fences along the sides of the park, so he wasn't worried that the dog would get lost or disturb other tourists. Zhuyu simply let go of the leash and rested at the side, waiting for curly hair to run enough. He could tell that curly hair was going to go against him. Another hour passed. The man in the sweater heard not only the scraping sound behind him, but also the panting of a dog. It was as if he was mocking him. He couldn't shake him off no matter how he ran. Zhuyu shared the situation with Fang Zhao and the others in the hotel and was delighted to see a joke. This fellow even mocked our curly hair's short legs. He's probably about to cry now. Zhuyu was rejoicing in curly hair's misfortune. However, he hadn't expected curly hair to be so good at running. No wonder he was the golden dog that had defeated all the shepherd dogs in Muzhou. Enough. Let him come back, Fang Zhao said. Go back just like that? I think he can still keep running. That's enough, Fang Zhao replied. If he kept running, that fellow would collapse. All right. Even if Zhuyu wanted to continue watching that sweater kid make a fool of himself, his boss's orders were more important. Zhuyu whistled and shouted, "Let's go back." Boss's orders. Curly hair puffed out with all his might before changing directions and heading towards Zhuyu. Then, he left the small park and returned to the hotel. The next day, the manager of a certain esports club discovered that a new seedling that had started to show off in the past 2 days had left with his head held high last night and returned in tears this morning. Wasn't it a night run? What had happened to him? Majo's dogs are too scary. The new seedling looked as though he had suffered a huge blow. Manager. On the other side, Fang Zhao specially rented a treadmill for curly hair to run to his heart's content and not agitate others. While Fang Zhao was researching curly hair in his spare time, a certain poverty alleviation entertainment program team was gearing up for a big fight. Originally, this was a niche program. In this day and age, real poverty alleviation programs had to go to places that were too bitter. They simply couldn't invite any big-name celebrities with influence. Fortunately, they had the support of the Poverty Alleviation Office and some poverty alleviation funds, so this variety program could continue. This time, the program team actually welcomed Zero Renault, a celebrity from Lijo's aristocracy. Zero had been forcefully thrown into the program team by his father. This time, his father had steeled his heart to let Zero suffer a little so that he would stop fooling around outside and do more meaningful things to reflect on life. And when Zero saw that there was no hope for him to be rescued, he had a "if I go to hell, you guys can forget about ascending to heaven" mentality and dragged Wu Tianhao and Barber down with him. The program team was delighted. This kind of scam came one after another. If not for the number of people, they would have wanted nothing more than to scam all the people in Zero's contact list. These people had backgrounds and financial resources. They also had the support of Zero's father, General Renault. With such a strong backing, their program team was going to make a comeback. The program team contacted the commanding officer of a certain planet near the bottom of the development sequence to discuss cooperation. The commanding officer of the base was excited. He had expended a lot of effort this year to obtain military funds and resources. He was thinking of upgrading the base's equipment when he received the program team's message. A poverty alleviation program? Great, great. It would be even better if they could pull in some development funds. However, when he saw the guest list and a portion of the program team's proposal, the commanding officer's face turned green. Are you fucking kidding me? Look at who these people are. Are they here to help the poor or to flaunt their wealth? What poverty alleviation team? Idiot team. The program team negotiated for a bit more and painted a beautiful picture of the future. The commanding officer sneered. Fuck you. Do you think I will lose when it comes to painting a picture? You want to confuse me with such insignificant tricks? They didn't want to wait on a bunch of pampered young masters and mistresses. Troublesome. If they weren't careful, they would get into trouble. The gains didn't make up for the losses. The program team didn't give up. The Poverty Alleviation Office also came forward to persuade them. The higher-ups of the base held a small meeting and finally came to a decision. We can cooperate, but we have a request. If you can bring him over, we will agree to the cooperation. Who? The program team was curious. Fang Zhao. Professor Carter's eyelids were twitching violently today. He kept feeling uneasy, but after going through all the important matters one by one, he didn't find anything that was out of his control. He had just reported to Mo Lang about his work. Mo Lang had told him to guard against infiltration by the entertainment industry, and he had agreed. Carter really didn't care much about being infiltrated by the entertainment industry. This was Majo, after all. Every day, there were all sorts of competitions and gossip about famous athletes. Who would notice Fang Zhao, who spent most of his time in the hotel composing? Chapter 387. Fang Zhao didn't know that someone was plotting against him. During his time in Majo, besides working on team projects, he had also been preparing for his advanced studies graduation concert. The graduation concert was similar to a graduation thesis. If the quality wasn't up to standard, if the overall score wasn't enough, then he would have to continue studying. Thus, some people could graduate early, while others had to stay and study. Fang Zhao's little notebook had already recorded a portion of his work, but it wasn't enough. After submitting the portion of the team project's results, Fang Zhao planned to go out for a walk when he heard Yin Biao mocking Zuiyu. Look at how useless you are. You can't even compare to curly hair. Yin Biao mocked the half-dead Zuiyu on the treadmill. One of my legs can last longer than you. Will you die if you don't brag? That leg of yours is powered by M. Zuiyu jumped off the treadmill and wiped his sweat with a towel. He glanced at Curly Hair, who was running along to a game song and jumping to the beat. He swallowed back the words he wanted to say to Yin Biao. Humans are really inferior to dogs. Fang Zhao rented 2 treadmills. One of them was specially for Curly Hair. This dog wasn't ordinary. Fang Zhao didn't intend to let him run for long periods of time outside, but he couldn't slack off either. When he was alone, He made curly hair persist in running every day and stop thinking about games. However, curly hair had learned to slack off. When Fang Zhao wasn't around, Zuiyu and Yin Biao couldn't control this little thing. Because curly hair's net worth wasn't low, Yin Biao and Zuiyu had to be careful even when playing with the dog, afraid of pulling out a strand of fur. They didn't have the guts to do such things. When Fang Zhao found out about this, he downloaded many game songs from games curly hair played on the treadmill. They were all from games curly hair played on a loop and automatically ended after 3 hours. Thus, curly hair ran for 3 hours every day. Today, Zuiyu tried running at the same time and jumped off the treadmill after 2 hours. Yin Biao mocked him for not being able to run as well as curly hair. Zuiyu tossed the towel aside and raised his head 45 degrees. Back then, before I retired, don't think about the past. When I didn't retire, it was just as easy. Yin Biao interrupted. For this short distance, we still had to take care of strength training. Both of them despised each other for bragging and reminisced about their past selves. After retiring, although he still insisted on working out, fitness was self-training. To put it bluntly, it was more like a kind of entertainment. Before he retired, it was passive training. He had to train for a long time. He couldn't just rest when he was tired. It was more like a job. Zuiyu sighed. Sure enough, a comfortable life can corrupt a person. I am much more useless than before. I can't even outrun an unknown athlete from Majo. He gave up on competing with curly hair. This special dog that was worth 200 million. Based on what you said, maybe he is a hidden top athlete? Don't look down on Majo's top-notch professional athletes. Those long-distance runners can run at least 40 kilometers and do all sorts of tricks. Before your muscles have even rested, they can run again. They are all talented people. We can't compare ourselves to them in this aspect. Yin Biao analyzed rationally. Right. Back then, besides physical training, we also had to train our skills and techniques. It wasn't just running. Zuiyu was a little consoled. Our garrison is much tougher than yours. The training intensity is much higher, Yin Biao said. Keep bragging. I have never seen it. Although Zuiyu said this, he mostly agreed. Garrison troops on Planet Y might be slightly better, but he knew what kind of place Baiji had been. Even if he had never been there, he knew what kind of place Baiji had been. The planet's native species were too powerful. However, after new mineral deposits had been discovered on planet Baiji, it had been the domain of humans. Now that the competition for mineral deposits was intense, it wouldn't be a place they could go easily in the short term. You will know when you go to the Y garrison. It doesn't need to be as difficult as planet Baiji. Those planetary bases at the end of the development sequence are similar. You will have to shed a layer of skin first. Aren't you looking down on me? As if I have never shed a layer of skin before. After saying this, the two of them felt gloomy. They couldn't go on like this. If they degenerated, they would only be abused when they met comrades in the future. They had agreed to start a new life after retiring, but their experiences in the military still had a deep impact. They didn't want to admit that they had become weaker. Just as they were thinking this, they saw Fang Zhao come out and hurriedly set aside their distracting thoughts, setting aside how to strengthen themselves first. This job couldn't be thrown away. It definitely couldn't be thrown away. Zuiyu and Yin Biao were worried that Fang Zhao had overheard what they had just said. They knew that Fang Zhao's ears were very sharp. However, Fang Zhao didn't say anything. He walked over to check on Curly Hair's running time and condition. This little thing treated it like a game. He would perk up the moment he heard the game song and was having a great time jogging. Where's Nanfeng? Fang Zhao asked. He just took a call and went out. It seemed like someone was looking for him. I saw his surprised expression when he picked up, Zuiyu replied. As they were talking, Nanfeng rushed in from outside with a conflicted expression. He was delighted to see Fang Zhao. Boss, the director of Up Close Contact, was looking for you. He wants to invite you to be a guest for the next episode. What the heck is Up Close Contact? Yin Biao and Zuiyu had blank looks on their faces. Although they had already looked up a lot of information on the entertainment industry, they had no recollection of this program. It's a slightly official variety show. Nanfeng had a deeper understanding of variety shows than Zuiyu and Yin Biao. To put it simply, it's an entertainment variety show with the goal of poverty alleviation. Poverty alleviation? Poverty alleviation where? Is there a need for that now? The various foundations aren't just for show. Zuiyu was curious. Nanfeng pointed to the sky. Extraterrestrial. Zuiyu and Yin Biao's eyebrows twitched, but they didn't say anything else. Regardless of what they thought, they still had to follow their boss's footsteps. Whatever their boss decided, they would follow. Fang Zhao took the information Nanfeng handed over and quickly flipped through it. Tell me briefly. It's like this. Nanfeng told Fang Zhao everything he knew. Fang Zhao had participated in variety shows before. Back then, he had joined Project Starlight during his military service. Unlike Project Starlight, which was jointly promoted by the Ministry of Education and various military leaders, Project Starlight was mainly targeted at young people evading military service. This program was promoted by the Poverty Alleviation Office and supported by many official media outlets. However, it was indeed a variety entertainment program. It was just that it hadn't been able to invite popular celebrities or big-name artists. Most of the celebrities it had managed to invite were not popular enough or had already retired from the industry. Some online video platforms weren't willing to buy the rights, so most people didn't know about it. The program had a niche audience. It was precisely because it was public welfare and poverty alleviation, as well as the support of several influential official media outlets, that it had managed to survive until now. In Nanfeng's opinion, the production aspect was rather average. The places that the program's guests had to go to were truly arduous. No wonder celebrities didn't want to go. If they were accidentally injured, it would be a huge loss. Let me take a look at past episodes. Nanfeng, did they say where they would be going for the next episode? Fang Zhao asked. Nanfeng shook his head. They didn't reveal which planet. In any case, it will definitely be one of the lower end of the development sequence. That won't change. To put it bluntly, it meant poverty, hardship, and places where daily life was inconvenient. Also, because this program is public welfare, so, Nanfeng glanced at Fang Zhao's expression. The director might ask for a friendship discount. When Nanfeng found out about this from the program team, he secretly curled his lips. How could there be a friendship discount if there was no friendship? Did they really think they were going there to suffer? Boss, because you were behind closed doors composing, they want to chat with Professor Carter first. They will look for you in a bit. While Nanfeng was explaining the situation to Fang Zhao, the program team had already spoken to Carter. The program team was feeling bitter. It was fine dealing with people from the entertainment industry, but they really couldn't be tough with this bunch of academic professors. They could only soften their tone and show weakness, but their ultimate goal wouldn't change. They had even invited a few big shots from the Poverty Alleviation Office. Actually, it wasn't that they had to find Fang Zhao. It had been requested by the people at the military base. Fang Zhao was their only designated guest. It didn't matter how many other guests were added or removed, as long as Fang Zhao was brought along. The people at the military base were also very shrewd. Being stationed on an alien planet without much development value was already tough enough. Who would be willing to be a babysitter? It wasn't that they looked down on the descendants of great generals. Some of the descendants of great generals were rather impressive, but Lai Zhou's Zero, La Zhou's Barbara, and Teng Zhou's Wu Tianhao? What kind of people were they? Even if one didn't follow the entertainment industry or watch other programs, one just had to search online to get a general idea. Due to communication conditions and internal regulations, the number of entertainment programs available to the military base on many alien planets was limited. Therefore, the people in charge of culture and arts would select a few suitable entertainment programs and transmit them to the various bases and military districts. These included music and songs, television dramas, sports events, variety shows, and news highlights from various continents. Some time ago, the entire season of Founding Era had been packaged and sent to the various bases and military districts. The compressed package also contained the original soundtracks of all the chapters of Founding Era. Having a series to watch, and a top-notch production at that, delighted the garrison troops at the various alien bases. But amidst their happiness, they were also thoroughly abused by the plot. Many people had become Fang Zhao's fans. A few of Fang Zhao's compositions were also loved by everyone. Fang Zhao also had the status of a reserved duty major. Many unlucky people who had been assigned there viewed Fang Zhao as an idol. Of course, the leaders of the bases did not just look at Fang Zhao's popularity and his status as a reserved duty major. They also looked at the rise of Planet Baiji and Planet Y. It just so happened that a program team had approached them and wanted them to cooperate with the production of an episode, so they had raised this request. The effects of the program Up Close Contact were not that great. Otherwise, the garrison bases at the back of the development sequence would have become awe-inspiring long ago. Reality TV. Reality TV. That was a show. It was an entertainment program produced for people to watch. Even though it was meant to help the poor, many military officers at the garrison bases rejected it. It was not that they looked down on these people. They were grateful for their help, but at the same time, it also brought trouble to the special guests. There had been a celebrity who had fallen seriously ill at a certain garrison base because his immune system was too weak. Luckily, he had been treated in time. Otherwise, there would have been a lot of trouble. Therefore, sometimes the military officers at the garrison bases hoped that the big-shot celebrity would come, but they were worried that something would happen on their own turf and cause even more pressure from public opinion. However, if it was Fang Zhao, they would feel much more at ease. Fang Zhao had served in the military on Planet Baiji and had fought terrorists. His qualities were tough enough, able to withstand torment, and he even had the title of a mythical beast. Mythical beasts. Weren't they supposed to ward off evil in the legends of the old era? The three special guests that the program team had chosen were too evil. They needed one more to balance things out. Due to the demands of the garrison bases, the program team tried their best to persuade Carter. They spoke with Carter for close to an hour before leaving to look for Fang Zhao. While the other party was looking for Fang Zhao, Carter hurriedly sent a message to Imo Lang. When Imo Lang found out about the situation, Carter lowered his head, not daring to look. A silence that made one tremble. Facing Imo Lang's eyes that were like death rays, Carter braced himself and said, "Teacher, regarding this matter, I can explain." Imo Lang took a deep breath. How infuriating. He had just told Carter to isolate Fang Zhao from the entertainment circle during his advanced studies, and in the blink of an eye, he heard that a certain variety program had come to poach him. Carter was indeed unreliable. He couldn't even keep an eye on a single person. Chapter 388. The schedule of the program team was rather tight. There were 5 special guests for this episode. Besides Fang Zhao, Zero, Barbara, and Wu Tianhao, there was also Midasi. That's right, Marzhou's retired former professional tennis player Midasi was also a special guest for this episode. What was surprising was that the program team had not expected to invite him, and he had even taken the initiative to contact them. In the past, the program had not been able to invite 2 satisfactory special guests, even if they broke their legs. This time, so many heavyweights had come. Because of the powerful lineup for this episode, the program team had a rare confidence. Their backs were stiff, and they wished they could hold their heads up high. However, due to the confidentiality agreement, they could not divulge it privately. After all 5 special guests had signed the contract, the program team immediately started the preliminary publicity. First, they would attract more attention. From the preliminary preparations to the end of filming, the topics would be kept lively. Just as the program team had expected, once the 5 special guests were released, everyone's attention was focused on them. When most people saw this news, their first reaction was, "What the heck is this? Up close contact? What kind of program is this? I've never heard of it before." Another search, a poverty alleviation variety program? 4 of the 5 special guests were from top aristocratic families, all from the families of great generals. Such a powerful lineup of extravagant special guests going to poverty alleviation? Logically speaking, if 4 young masters and mistresses from top aristocratic families went to poverty alleviation, even if it was a withered blade of grass, it would still grow into a towering tree. However, this lineup gave people an extremely unreliable feeling. Poverty alleviation is not as simple as a donation. Surely Zero won't just throw money in, right? Barbara is covered in luxury goods. How does it look like she is going to poverty alleviation? Is she on vacation? A while ago, Wu Tianhao was promoting his new film and even said that a sequel was in preparation. Is she hitching a ride to film a sequel? Majo's little tennis Prince Midas's first stop after retiring is poverty alleviation? Is she carrying out a family mission? It feels like she is playing a big game of chess. Is there something important that I've overlooked recently? There is still Feng Zhao. Don't overlook Feng Zhao. 4 of the 5 special guests are from wealthy families. I don't believe this last one's background can be that low. That's right. Zero of the Renault family, Barbara of the Lacalina family, Wu Tianhao of the Wu family of Tongzhou, and Midasi Mars, who had just stirred up a storm on Mersizhao. All 4 of them came from families of great generals. From the looks of it, Feng Zhao definitely had an extraordinary background. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been dragged along with this group of people. Didn't we clarify it before? Feng Zhao isn't from a wealthy family. Just because it wasn't in the past doesn't mean it won't be in the future. Look at Majo's Midasi. He just added his surname. Who could have predicted this before the press conference? Makes sense. If that's the case, Feng Zhao might also be hiding his aristocratic status. Agreed. Even if he isn't a descendant of a great general, his status wouldn't be that low. More and more people online started to believe that Feng Zhao had a hidden aristocratic background. As for Feng Zhao's explanation, not listening. They must be fooling people. Don't try to fool me. Because of the incident with Midasi, we've already seen through your background. Even the HR manager of Yinzhou's Silverwing Media hurriedly flipped through Feng Zhao's information a few more times after seeing all this, but he still couldn't find any evidence. Either Feng Zhao was hiding the most important information, or the netizens were overthinking things. Inside a certain hotel in Huangzhou, great-grandfather Feng was so angry when he saw the discussions online that he nearly dropped the walnut in his hand. Great-grandmother Feng hurriedly snatched the walnut and stuffed a slipper into great-grandfather Feng's hand. Great-grandfather Feng quietly looked at the slipper in his hand for 2 seconds before forcefully throwing it on the floor with a loud thud. Nonsense. What does my family's little Zhao have to do with a great general's family? Great-grandfather Feng was very vexed. Why was it that no matter how he explained, this bunch of people just wouldn't believe him? Aristocratic family? In another 50 years, no, in another 20 years, my family's little Zhao will be an aristocratic family himself, and a great aristocratic family at that. Great-grandfather Feng had this bit of confidence. In great-grandfather Feng's heart, Feng Zhao was all-round in all aspects, a genius among geniuses. He couldn't be compared to anyone else. The moment the UP Close Contact program team released the news, it triggered a heated discussion online. Some people were discussing whether the aristocratic families were plotting something. Others were guessing Feng Zhao's aristocratic family background, and the rest were happily watching the commotion. Of course, there were also celebrities who started having ideas after seeing the news. Before General Renault had thrown Zero into the program team, the UP Close Contact program team had sought out a few celebrities with some reputation for this episode, but they had all been rejected. Now, it wasn't just the few celebrities they had sought out before, but there were also people they had sought out for previous episodes. One by one, they took the initiative to contact the program team, wanting to join. The number of people on each episode was around 5, but it wasn't fixed. Sometimes it was 2 or 3, sometimes it was 6 or 7. Now that 5 people had already been announced, 2 more would be fine. Many people had the same thought, but this time, the program team only intended to find 5 special guests. The entire program team attached great importance to this episode and didn't intend to let any other celebrities get involved. These few people were enough to keep them busy. Faced with those celebrities who had taken the initiative to approach, the program team tactfully rejected them and said that they were also stuck between a rock and a hard place. First, they didn't dare offend the special guests, and second, they didn't dare fall out with the military base. So this was all they could do. Their tone was very polite. There was no helping it. They were used to acting like grandsons in front of those big names, and it was hard for them to put on airs. When slightly more famous celebrities called, they still habitually smiled along. This was the first time they had received such treatment, and it made them feel refreshed. Their desire to use this episode to make a comeback was even stronger. As the discussions online were getting heated, people from the Poverty Alleviation Office were on the phone with Zero's father, General Renault. Have you really decided? The commotion this time is a little big. The filming process will be more serious and more arduous, a certain Poverty Alleviation Office leader said. General Renault didn't really mind. It's fine. I just want him to suffer a little. He likes the entertainment industry, and it just so happens that you have a show that has something to do with the entertainment industry, so I'll throw him over. I don't dare let him touch other projects. In his opinion, this sort of entertainment variety show that could achieve its goal by selling stupidity was the most suitable for his son. This person wasn't soft-hearted when it came to screwing over his son. The Poverty Alleviation Office leader chuckled. Then, he retracted his smile and said in a low voice, "Let me emphasize once again that helping the poor is a very serious matter. Even if it is an entertainment variety show, it is not a place for them to fool around." General Renault assured, "You don't have to worry. I have already told Zero that if he makes a fuss, I will skin him alive." Zero, who had been made a fool of by his own father, felt very aggrieved. Do you know how difficult it is to film this kind of variety show? Don't you need acting skills to be on a variety show? The next day was also the set departure time by the program team. This time, Fang Zhao brought along Nan Feng, Zuiyu, and Yin Biao, as well as curly hair. Great-grandfather Fang and great-grandmother Fang insisted on sending him to the spaceport before leaving. Great-grandfather Fang had his own plans. He wanted to see what the program team was like and what the other special guests were like. Fang Zhao felt that he had brought enough people this time, but great-grandfather Fang didn't think so. Given Fang Zhao's current reputation, an assistant and 2 bodyguards were too few. However, the program team was going to a military base on a foreign planet, so they couldn't be too casual. They had to observe the situation first. The program team had an assembly point near Huangzhou spaceport. When Fang Zhao arrived, only a portion of the program team was there. The other special guests were nowhere to be seen. A staff member explained to Fang Zhao, "The other 4 will be here shortly." Not long after, Midas arrived in a casual outfit, carrying a bag, and wearing sunglasses. After entering the lounge, he took off his sunglasses, revealing dark circles under his eyes. He sat down and yawned. Even though Midas had said it in a carefree manner during his retirement press conference, when he had really retired, he hadn't been able to sleep well for a single day. This time, his family elders had heard that Lizhou, Lajou, and Tongzhou were sending people to participate in certain poverty alleviation entertainment variety shows, so they had kicked him over. They had said that it would definitely improve his sleep and would also be a post-retirement adaptation period. After Midas arrived, Wu Tianhao, Zero, and Barbara arrived in succession. Each one was more ostentatious than the last. When great-grandfather Fang saw that everyone else had brought along a bunch of bodyguards and assistants, he held his breath. To prevent anyone from being wrongly accused, he even went to check with the program team staff to see how many people the other 4 special guests were bringing. With one look, great-grandfather Fang realized that all 4 special guests had brought along more people than Fang Zhao. Midas had 2 assistants and 4 bodyguards. Wu Tianhao had also brought along a 7-person team. As for Zero and Barbara, they had brought along 10-person teams. If not for the program team limiting the number of people they could bring along at most 10 people, they would have brought 10 cars full of people. Great-grandfather Fang was so angry that his face turned red. Were they going to poverty alleviation, or were they going on vacation? Outrageous. Especially that Zero. However, after listening to Zero and the others' off-key conversation, great-grandfather Fang suddenly felt his anger dissipate quite a bit. He had been comforted. If someone like Zero wanted to make others feel at ease, even bringing along a reinforced platoon wouldn't be enough. Great-grandfather Fang felt some sympathy for their parents. Sigh, forget it, forget it. Not everyone's child is as smart and obedient as our family's little Zhao. Great-grandfather Fang thought to himself. Before Fang Zhao set off, great-grandfather Fang pulled Fang Zhao aside and exhorted, Pay more attention when you go to a foreign planet's military base. Although it hasn't been revealed which planet it is, it will surely be a poor place. Little Zhao, your own safety is number one. Great-grandfather Feng had specially emphasized your own safety so that Feng Zhao could take care of himself first. As for the others, they could wait. As he spoke, he raised his voice to let more people hear him. Properly record the program and take care of the younger children in the team. Loving the young is a traditional virtue. The reason he had said this was because this old man had checked. Among the 5 special guests in the team, Feng Zhao was the youngest. Taking care of the younger in the team wasn't wrong, but the others should take care of Feng Zhao. Feng Zhao was silent for a few seconds before nodding. I understand. You're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.